Chapter 174. At this time a salesperson walked over. She looked at me and said, "Hello, Mississippi. You have good taste. This is our store's newest collection. It just arrived last night. Are you buying it for your lover? It's very suitable. Your lover must be very handsome." I looked at her and asked, "Do you have this 185 centimeters shirt? Give me one." The salesperson nodded and went to the warehouse. Xinya watched me buy a shirt. She walked over to my side and put her arms around my neck. "Io, sister-in-law, who are you buying this for? It's the newest collection. Actually, I also liked it, but it doesn't suit Suri. Sigh, if it did, I would have bought it." I rolled my eyes at her and said, "Stop talking, bad girl." Xinya looked at me with a mischievous smile. "Aya, sister-in-law, who are you buying this for?" "Han Hao Gij is my older brother." I'm so curious. You've aroused this princess curiosity." Xinyao's teasing made me blush. I didn't know how to respond. I turned around and saw another set of men's clothing that was also very good. I shook off Xinyao's hand and looked at it. The quality was also very good, and the price was about the same. I looked at the salesperson and shouted, "Give me this one in the same size." I turned to look at Xinyao with a proud expression. Xinyao looked at me and laughed. I couldn't help but want to beat her. She was so scared that she quickly ran to find Suri. After a while, I walked out of the store. I looked at the 2 sets of clothes I bought and thought for a moment. I called out to Xinyao and said softly, "Xinyao, take some time and help me give these 2 sets of clothes to Han Hao and your brother. I'm about to go abroad, and it might be a few years before I come back. Just treat it as a parting gift." Xinyao was stunned. She took the clothes from my hands and looked at me. "Sister-in-law, have you really decided to go to America? You won't have your parents by your side. How will you take care of yourself? Will Red Baron be enough to accompany you? I don't feel at ease. How about you let Suri accompany you? When I'm done here, I'll go there too. It just so happens that the head office in America wants to talk to me about the new designs. I've been looking for an excuse to decline. If I go back this time, I'll be able to accompany you." I looked at Xinyao and said, "Silly girl, you should just stay in the country peacefully. I left Su Rui with you, so that you two can live a good life together. So you shouldn't think too much about my matters here. Taking care of yourself is more important than anything else. Besides, it's not like I won't come back. When I come back, you'll have a niece or nephew. At that time, you'll be an aunt. How can you still be so childish?" Xinyao curled her lips and looked at me and said, "I can't win against you, okay? Okay. I promise you, I will take care of the things around me, but you also have to promise me that you will take good care of yourself. If something really happens to you, you will make my heart very sad. Can you bear it?" Finished speaking, she looked at me with eyes full of tenderness. My face darkened, and I turned my head away in disgust. Xinyao said that she still wanted to buy shoes for Suri. The few of us walked towards the shoe section. Perhaps it was because I was pregnant, but I felt tired after walking a few steps. Suri and the others were very accommodating to me. They walked very slowly with me. They knew that it was inconvenient for me to walk, because I was pregnant. Xinyao also promised me that she would hurry up and buy shoes for me. Then she would go home and rest with me. We entered the elevator. Just as the elevator door was about to close, a hand suddenly reached in. Then 2 tall and sturdy men came in. I suddenly felt that there was something wrong with these 2 people. With my current condition, I couldn't get into a fight with others. I looked at Suri and hinted him to be careful. The Red Baron and Suri stood in front of me and Xinyao. Xinyao and I stood in the innermost part of the elevator. The elevator door closed and began to move down. Just as the elevator started to move, the 2 men suddenly turned around and took out 2 knives. The 4 of us immediately became nervous. Suri looked at the 2 of them and shouted, "What are you trying to do?" The 2 men didn't say anything. They stretched out their knives and stabbed Xinyao and me. Xinyao screamed in fear. She squatted on the ground, and I shielded her behind me. Just then, the Red Baron and Suri pounced on the 2 of them. The space in the elevator was very small. The Red Baron and Suri wrestled with the 2 men. They were afraid that they would hurt Xinyao and me, so they tried to put some distance between us to ensure our safety. I hugged Xinyao tightly and pressed myself against the wall of the elevator. I didn't think about anything else at that moment. I just hoped that the elevator would reach the first floor and open the door as soon as possible. Just as we were about to reach the second floor, a man stretched out his knife and cut the Red Baron's arm. Blood flowed out. The Red Baron ignored the pain and held the man down. The elevator finally reached the first floor. The moment the door opened, the Red Baron suddenly turned around and pushed the two men into the elevator. Then, she turned around and pushed Suri, Xinyao and I out of the elevator. She shouted, "Hurry up and leave, Red Baron." Before I could react, the elevator door closed and went up. I knocked on the elevator door with all my might, but it wouldn't open. Suri pulled me and Xinyao behind him. Seeing that the surroundings were still safe, he quickly dialed a number in the club. Xinyao was scared out of her wits. She sat on the ground, and her shopping bags were scattered all over the floor. I didn't know what to do. I hugged her tightly, but I was worried about the Red Baron. After Suri finished the call, he pressed the elevator button, hoping that the elevator would come down quickly. As expected, the elevator started to go down as soon as it reached the 5th floor. Then the 4th floor, the 3rd floor, the 2nd floor. Finally, it reached the 1st floor. Suri found a fire extinguisher from somewhere along the way. He stood by the door, waiting for the elevator to open so that he could rush in. When the elevator door opened, the scene inside shocked us. The two men who attacked us were lying on the ground. The entire elevator was covered in blood. The Red Baron was also covered in blood. She was clutching her abdomen. I saw that she had been stabbed in the stomach and was bleeding profusely. Suri quickly threw away the fire extinguisher and carried the Red Baron out. The Red Baron glanced at me. She smiled and then lost consciousness. "Red Baron." Suri touched her artery and said softly, "It's okay." She just muddled through, "Miss, the brothers are rushing over. Don't be afraid." Then Suri dialed 120. My tears flowed out. This was the second time I had encountered this in this shopping mall. I had nothing left to live for. Chapter 175. However, I had to stay calm right now. I calmed myself down and walked into the elevator. I reached out and touched the two men's arteries. Luckily, they were only unconscious and weren't dead yet. This wouldn't be a murder case. I told Suri, and Suri heaved a sigh of relief. After waiting for about 5 minutes, the ambulance arrived. The Red Minghui's people also arrived. Suri gave me a few simple instructions. I helped Xinyao up, and we followed the ambulance to the hospital. When we arrived at the hospital, the Red Baron had already been pushed into the emergency operating room and was undergoing emergency treatment. Suri's phone hadn't stopped ringing. It seemed that the incident at the shopping center was also difficult to deal with. I glanced at Xinyao. She hadn't recovered yet, and her eyes were still filled with tears. My heart ached when I saw her like this. I hugged her tightly and comforted her softly. After a while, Suri finished his call. He walked over to the two of us. He looked at me and sighed. "Miss, let me do it." I nodded and let go of Xinyao. Suri sat next to Xinyao and hugged her. Xinyao lay in Suri's arms and cried even louder. I looked at Suri and asked softly, "What did they say?" Su Rui looked up at me and said, "Miss, the two people have been sent to the hospital together. Although the two of them were stabbed a few times, they were not fatal. It should be said that the Red Baron deliberately did not stab their vital parts. They should be fine. Now our people are watching over them. Don't worry, they are my subordinates and are very reliable. It's just that until now, no one related to these two people has come to look for them. We don't know who they are and why they wanted to assassinate us. I have already told them to inform me as soon as they wake up, or if someone comes to look for them. Miss, don't worry, leave this matter to me. Just leave it to me." I nodded and looked at Suri. "All right, I understand. We need to investigate this matter thoroughly and see if it's related to the previous incident. We need to know if they were after Xinyao or me. Su Rui, why don't you take Xinyao back home first? Let her stay at home for a while. I'll contact the Duanmu family later. It's best not to let the elders know about this for the time being. We'll make a decision based on the severity of the matter after the investigation. If they're after Xinyao again, then this matter might be too serious. You should also investigate if Xinyao has offended anyone while she's abroad. If she really did offend someone, investigate that person as well. This is a bit too much. Suri looked at Xinyao and gently stroked her hair. Then he looked up at me and said, I can take her home. But can you stay in the hospital alone? There are a lot of people in this place. What if something happens again? I don't feel at ease but sigh. Suri let out a long sigh. I thought for a moment, then picked up my phone and sent a message. After waiting for a while, I heard a notification sound. I smiled and looked at Suri. Take Xinyao home. I've already called someone to accompany me. Don't worry, it's 2 people so they'll be fine. Suri immediately understood what I meant. He helped Xinyao stand up, then looked at me and said, Junji, I understand. Be careful. I'll take Xinyao home first. I'll come back when she's stable. I nodded, and he and Xinyao turned and left the hospital. I let out a long sigh. So many things had happened in one morning, and I suddenly felt very worried. I'd just called Han Hao and Duan Muke to come to the hospital to find me, but I didn't know how long it would take for them to arrive. Compared to that, I was more worried about the Red Baron lying in the operating room. Her actions had really surprised me. I hadn't expected her to sacrifice herself for our safety. I could imagine the scene, and I felt very sorry for her. I'd been suspicious of her, and I'd even thought that she would go against me for my father. It seemed that I'd been thinking too much. Just as my thoughts were running wild, the door to the operating room opened, and a doctor came out. He stood at the door and shouted, Who is Lin Yu's family? I quickly stood up and looked at the doctor. It's me. I'm Lin Yu's family. The doctor looked me up and down. Then, he looked at me and said in a serious tone, Lin Yu's injuries are very serious. There's a stab wound in her chest, and it's an inch away from her heart. There's also a stab wound in her abdomen. We're trying to save her right now, but she's still in critical condition. The nurse will ask you to sign the notice of critical condition later. I'll go in now. Doctor, I wanted to beg the doctor, but before I could open my mouth, the doctor had already entered the operating room. Hearing the doctor's words, I almost collapsed. I sat on the chair by the door of the operating room, my head leaning against the wall. I didn't know how to face it, and I couldn't stop my tears from flowing out. After 2 minutes, the door to the operating room opened again. A nurse came to me with a folder. She looked at me and asked in a soft voice, Excuse me, are you Lin Yu's family? I raised my head and nodded at her. She handed me the folder in her hand. Then she looked at me and said, This is the notice of critical condition. The family member needs to sign. Please sign here. She pointed at the blank space where the family member needed to sign. My heart collapsed, and I was very conflicted. Should I sign this? If the Red Baron really lost his life to protect me, I wouldn't be able to bear it for the rest of my life. Uxian wouldn't be able to bear it. What should I do? My hand trembled as I held the pen. I didn't know what to do, and I didn't know if I should sign this. While I was hesitating, someone suddenly rushed in front of me. He snatched the pen from my hand and signed the notice of critical condition. Then he took out a stack of money from his pocket and put it on the folder. He looked at the nurse and shouted, Hurry up and save her. The nurse was stunned. She took the folder and ran into the operating room. He turned around, and I saw that it was Duanmu Quebec. I opened my mouth to ask him, but Duanmu K sat next to me. He put his hands on my shoulders and looked at me. Are you stupid? Don't you know that if you don't sign the notice of critical condition, the doctor won't save her? They'll only start the operation if you sign it. Also, if you don't pay, they won't take responsibility. Chapter 176. Duanmu K sighed. He looked at me and said, What's wrong with you? Why do you suddenly not know what to do? I didn't know why, but when I saw Duanmu K, I cried even harder. I knew that he was right, and that he was worried about me, but I still felt very sad. Duanmu K saw that I was crying very sadly. He shook his head helplessly, and reached out to pull me into his arms. I leaned on his shoulder and couldn't stop my tears. He gently stroked my hair and said, All right. I know I may have said too much, but I didn't really want to scold you. Saving people is indeed more important. I also know that you are under a lot of pressure. I called Su Rue on the way here, and he told me what happened. When I heard it, I became nervous. Don't worry. I have decided to investigate this matter carefully and see who was so bold to hurt you. Don't cry anymore. The Red Baron will definitely wake up. You must think so. You have to believe it. Duan Mukei's words calmed me down a lot. Perhaps I also needed a warm hug when I was feeling helpless. Duan Mukei held my face and looked at me. Alright, stop crying. Your face is all messed up. You haven't eaten for a long time, right? I'll go buy you something to eat. Duan Mukei wanted to stand up, but I grabbed his sleeve. He lost his balance and fell back down. He looked at me and said, What's wrong? I won't go far. I'll go to the supermarket outside, okay? I shook my head and looked at Duan Mukei. Don't go, okay? Stay with me for a while, okay? Duan Mukei was stunned. Then he looked at me and nodded. Alright, I'll stay with you. Don't be afraid. Duan Mukei held my hand tightly and stayed by my side quietly. Time ticked by, and the light in the operating room was still on. Then my phone rang. I picked it up and saw that it was Han Hao. As I was about to answer, Duan Mukei reached out and snatched my phone away. He answered the call and said softly, Hello Xiao Hao. I'm Duan Mukei. Don't ask me how I answered the call. Where are you? You're almost there, right? Is there a fast food restaurant near you? Hurry up and buy some food for Xiaoli. She hasn't eaten anything yet. If she continues like this, her body will be finished. Hurry up and bring some food. That's all. We'll settle everything when we meet. Before I could react, Duan Mukei hung up the phone. He handed me the phone. I looked at him and asked, Why did you answer my call without my permission? What's the matter that you two have to settle in person? Duan Mukei looked at me and put his arm around my shoulder. He held me tightly in his arms and said softly, I don't care about anything else. Your health is the most important thing. I can't go out, so I can only ask Xiao Hao to bring you some food. Besides, it's a matter between us two men. You don't have to worry about it. Now, you just need to take care of yourself. I didn't say anything else, but I didn't know why. It had only been a little more than a day since we last met, but I suddenly felt that he had changed a lot. Although these words alone didn't sound very nice, my heart was very warm. Was it because he was still protecting me? Why was it that I felt more and more reluctant to part with him, even though we were divorced? After 5 minutes, Han Hao appeared, carrying a big bag of food. He first looked at Duan Mukei, then handed me the food. He looked at me and said, Xiaoli, hurry up and eat something. I really don't know what you should eat, so I could only buy you some food. When we're done, I'll take you out to eat. I called Suri, and Suri told me what happened between you two. What happened? Are you hurt? I took the bag from Han Hao and shook my head. I'm fine, but Xinyao was frightened. I asked Suri to take her back to my house first. He was worried that I wouldn't be safe here alone. So I called the two of you over. I'm in a bad mood today, so please don't quarrel in front of me. Duan Mukei and Han Hao looked at each other and didn't say anything. The three of us were sitting on the chairs at the door of the operating room. It had been a long time, but the lights in the operating room were still on. My heart was getting more and more nervous. Could it be that Red Baron's injury is really life-threatening? After waiting for about 10 minutes, the operating room light finally went off. The three of us stood up. The door to the operating room opened, and the doctor walked out. After a while, the Red Baron's bed was pushed out. I looked at the Red Baron and called out softly, Red Baron. The doctor seemed to see my worry. He looked at me and said, You're Lin Yu's family, right? You don't have to worry too much. The operation went smoothly, but he still needs to be under observation in the ICU. He's not out of danger yet. Once he's out of danger, he can be transferred to a normal ward. I smiled at the doctor with tears in my eyes. Thank you. Thank you for saving his life. The doctor looked at me and smiled. Alright, this is what we should do. You can go to the reception desk with the nurse later to handle the hospitalization procedures. If there's anything you need me for, just call me. Then the doctor turned and left. Han Hao looked at me and said softly, Xiaoli, you go to the ICU first. I'll go and handle the hospitalization procedures. Xiao Hao, I don't need you to do that. I brought enough money. Before I could finish, Han Hao had already run away. I sighed. With my current body, I couldn't catch up with him. I'd better wait for the next opportunity to pay him back. Duan Muke hugged me and said softly, "Let's go. We'll go to the ward." Then he pulled me toward the hospital bed. Duan Muke didn't let go of my hand the whole way. I could feel that he was walking very slowly today. According to his usual walking speed, he should be able to leave me a few blocks behind. But today he was walking very slowly. Was he trying to accommodate me? Just as I was thinking, Duan Muke asked softly, "This Lin Yu person is the Red Baron, right? Do you know anything about her background?" I nodded. I do. The first day I met her, I sent Suri to investigate her. Her background is very clean. She was raised by the Red Minghui since she was a child. She wholeheartedly serves the Red Minghui. Why do you suddenly want to ask about this? Duan Muke thought for a moment and said, "It's nothing. It's just that I don't know her well. I don't feel safe with her around you. I'm even wondering if what happened today was targeted at her." Chapter 177. I thought for a moment and looked at Duanmu Quebec. I don't think that's possible. After the two of them turned around and took out their knives, they rushed towards me and Xinyao. If it weren't for the Red Baron and Suri who tried their best to stop them, we would be the ones lying in the hospital right now. Duan Muke hugged me and said softly, "No matter what, as long as you're fine, it's fine. When she wakes up, I will thank her properly. Thank her for risking her life to protect you." I lowered my head and didn't look at him. "Xiao Ke, why are you so good to me?" I asked. Duan Muke stopped walking, and I looked up at him. He hugged me and lifted my chin, kissing me deeply on the lips. He looked at me and said, "Because I didn't cherish you when you were by my side. When I lost you, I realized that you were the one who truly belonged to me." I asked the doctor, and he said that the hope of recovering my memory is very slim. I really want to recover my memory, and I want to know what happened between you and I. Did we really love each other back then? I really want to know. I also understand that you liked me back then, and I want to be the person you love too. No matter if it's in the past or in the future. I only hope that I can always be by your side. Hearing Duan Muke's words, my eyes flickered. I pushed his hand away and didn't dare to look at him. "Let's go," I said softly. "The Red Baron is waiting for us." Then I turned and walked towards the ward. Duan Muke just stayed by my side quietly. He still had his arm around my shoulder as he walked with me to the Red Baron's ward. Because it was the ICU, the ward was completely isolated. The patient's family members weren't allowed to enter the ward. Duan Muke and I could only stand outside the window and look at Red Baron, who was lying on the bed. She was covered with a blanket, and her shoulders were exposed. She had always looked thin and weak, but now she looked even thinner. I gently touched the glass window and looked at her, who was lying on the bed worriedly. There were many tubes in her body, and she was on a ventilator. I didn't know when she would be out of danger. After a while, Han Hao came over. He walked up to me and glanced at Duanmu Quebec. Then he looked at me and said, "Shaoli, how's the situation?" "The hospitalization procedures have been completed. I've also arranged for the Red Baron to be transferred to a normal ward after she's out of danger. It's a single ward. Don't worry." I smiled at Han Hao and said softly, "Han Hao, thank you for doing all this for me." Han Hao shook his head. He stroked my hair and said softly, "Silly, it's not a big deal. As long as you're fine, it's fine. Do you need me to call a few people over? The Red Minghui didn't send anyone, right? It must be because you didn't let Suri tell Uncle Lung." I nodded and said, "It won't be too late to tell them after we investigate the matter. We don't know anything now. Even if we tell them, they'll have to investigate first." Just then my phone rang. I took it out and saw that it was Suri. I quickly answered the call. "Hello, Suri. What's wrong?" "One of the two people has woken up," Suri told me. "What? Really? Which ward is he in?" "I'll go over now." I couldn't care less. I suddenly thought of Xinyao and asked, "How's Xinyao? Is she better?" "Sigh, she's a little better, but I'm still worried about her. I can't leave, but that person has woken up. I still have so many things to ask him. I'm so worried. It would be great if I could split myself." I understood what Suri meant. I thought for a moment and said, How about this? You stay with Xinyao and ask 2 people to guard the entrance of the Red Baron's intensive care unit. Xiao Hao, and I will go over there to check on the situation. If there's anything, we'll call again. Okay, I got it. I'll arrange it now. Then Suri hung up. I turned and looked at Duanmuke and Han Hao. Xiao Hao, one of the people who attacked us has woken up. Can you accompany me to check on the situation later? Suri will arrange for people to come over. Duanmuke and Han Hao looked at each other, and then nodded at me. After waiting for about 2 minutes, 2 men walked over to us. They walked straight to me and bowed. Miss, we were sent by Brother Suri. He said that Miss has something for us to do. Miss, please tell us what to do. I looked at them and said, I have something to do later. You 2 stay here and watch the ward and the people in it. If anyone other than the hospital staff comes near, stop them. If the Red Baron does anything, please call the doctor as soon as possible. I have something to do. I'll be back as soon as I'm done. Okay, we understand. Then, the 2 of them stood at the door of the ward. I glanced at Han Hao and Duanmuke, and motioned for them to leave with me. The 3 of us walked in the direction Suri had described. I had a lot of questions in my mind, and decided to interrogate him when I saw him. Why did he want to assassinate us? On the way, I kept thinking about how to interrogate him. As we walked, Han Hao suddenly grabbed me from behind. I lost my balance and almost fell. Han Hao hugged me. As I came back to my senses, I saw a group of people pushing a hospital bed past me. If Han Hao hadn't grabbed me, I would have collided with the hospital bed. After the crowd passed, I stood up from Han Hao's embrace. Han Hao looked at me with a worried expression. Are you okay? Did you hurt yourself? I looked at Han Hao and shook my head. I'm fine. Thank you. Otherwise, I would have collided with the hospital bed. I turned around and saw Duanmuke standing next to us with a gloomy face. He must have seen everything that had happened. I didn't know what to do. Duanmuke glared at Han Hao. Then he held my shoulder tightly and walked forward. I turned to look at Han Hao. Han Hao shook his head helplessly and followed behind us. I looked at Duanmuke and said softly, Let go of me. Why? Why should I let you go? What if you get hit again, because you're distracted like just now? I didn't know how to respond to Duanmuke's words. However, Han Hao was watching me from behind. I struggled with all my strength. In the end, Duanmuke let go of me. I looked at Duanmuke and said, It's okay. I can walk on my own. I'll be careful. Then, I turned around and continued to walk forward. I looked behind me out of the corner of my eyes. Duanmuke and Han Hao were quietly following behind me. Chapter 178. The 3 of us arrived at the door of the ward Suri had told us about. Sure enough, Red Minghue's men were guarding the door. When they saw us, they recognized me and walked towards me. One of them whispered to me, Young lady, the man who woke up is inside. We've already called the doctor to check on him. His condition is stable, but he's a bit agitated. We've tied him to the bed, but he's still struggling. Young lady, do you need us to accompany you inside? I looked through the window on the door. The man was tied to the bed, and he was struggling with all his might. The bed was creaking, and there were a lot of things scattered around on the floor. They must have been dropped by him while he was struggling. I turned to the men at the door and said, No need. The 2 of them are enough to accompany me. You 2 stand guard outside. If you see anyone suspicious, stop them and bring them in. Okay. After they said that, I pushed the door open and entered the ward with Han Hao and Duanmu Quebec. They closed the door behind us. The man stopped struggling when he saw us enter, and stared at us with wide eyes. I walked in front of him, and pulled over a stool to sit down. I studied him carefully. The man was very tall, about 1.85 meters tall. He was also very fat. Although he was wearing a hospital gown, his exposed arms and neck were covered with scars of different sizes. He looked like a professional thug. His face was covered with thick stubble, and he looked at us fiercely. I could see that he was clenching his fists. I looked at him and said, Don't struggle. I just want to talk to you. The man recognized me. He sneered and said, What do we have to talk about? It seemed that he was also a stubborn person. I sat there and said to him, You don't have to talk to me like that. Let's talk straight. Tell me honestly, who sent you to assassinate us? Did they send you to kill me or Duanmu Xinyao? When the man heard my question, he laughed and said, use your brain and think. Do you think I'll tell you? If you want to kill me, just do it. Don't talk to me. It's useless. I looked at him and said, you know, the person who tried to assassinate us with you is still lying in the next room. If you cooperate and tell me what happened, I promise I won't hold it against you. But if you continue to be like this, even if you die in the hospital, no one will know. The man looked at me and sneered. Are you threatening me? I'm telling you it's useless. You don't have to threaten me. When I was in the underworld, you didn't even know where you were. As soon as he finished speaking, he began to struggle again. He struggled to get up from the bed and rushed towards me. I didn't have time to react and my body leaned back. I forgot that I was still sitting in the chair, and the chair fell backward. I was about to fall. Fortunately, Han Hao ran behind me and caught the chair. He reached out and pulled me into his arms. I lost my balance and fell heavily into Han Hao's arms. He held me tightly, afraid that I would fall again. As soon as I reacted, Duanmu Ke rushed out from my side. He jumped onto the bed and sat on top of the man. Duanmu Ke reached out his left hand and grabbed the man's neck. Then he took out a military knife from his pocket and pointed it at the man's eyes. Duanmu Ke whispered to him, don't move. The knife doesn't have eyes. Don't blame me for blinding you. The man stopped struggling and lay on the bed. Duanmu Ke didn't loosen his grip. He held the man's neck and pointed the knife at his eyes. Seeing that the man stopped struggling, Duanmu Ke sneered and looked at him. It seems talking to you isn't going to work. I have to use violence to make you stop. What's wrong? Shaoli isn't going to work when talking to you. Duanmu Ke suddenly became very serious. He looked at the man and shouted, speak. Who sent you to assassinate Shaoli and my sister? The man didn't answer. He stared fiercely at Duanmu Quebec. Duanmu Ke tightened his grip on the man's neck and shouted again, speak. Who the hell sent you? The man still didn't speak. Maybe Duanmu Ke was using too much strength, but his face was red. I was afraid that Duanmu Ke would choke him to death. Seeing that the man's mouth was so tight, Duanmu Ke sneered and said, you don't want to speak? Fine, I have a way to make you speak. Duanmu Ke loosened his grip on the man's neck, holding the knife in his right hand. He didn't even blink when he cut the man's arm. Blood instantly flowed out from the wound. The man screamed, ah! How is it? Are you going to speak or not? Duanmu Ke raised the knife. The blood on the knife dripped onto the man's face. The man endured the pain and still didn't speak. Duanmu Ke sneered. He raised the knife again and cut the man's arm twice. Xiao Ke. I was just about to call out to Duanmu Ke, but Han Hao stopped me. He hugged me tightly and said softly, let Xiao Ke handle it. He has experience in this area. Experience? What kind of experience? What if someone dies? He will be sentenced. I was really worried. If something really happened, and it didn't have anything to do with him, but his future was ruined because of this incident, how would I explain it to Duanmu Tachio and Xiaofingya? Han Hao was stunned for a moment. Then he looked at me and said, don't worry. Xiao Ke knows what he's doing. You just need to watch him from the side. It won't be long before this man tells you everything you want to know. While Han Hao and I were talking, Duanmu Ke added a few more wounds to the man's body. More blood flowed out. Duanmu Ke squatted on top of the man and showed him the knife. Duanmu Ke sneered and said, one last chance. Are you going to talk or not? If you don't talk, I will start cutting your face. That man's face was covered in sweat, and he was panting heavily. It seemed that the pain brought him no small amount of torture. With great effort, he opened his eyes and looked at Duanmu Quebec. In a soft voice he said, I'll tell you everything. Please don't hurt me. Chapter 179. After listening to him, Duanmu Ke turned to look at me. His eyes were asking me if I could listen to his explanation. I nodded at Duanmu Quebec. Duanmu Ke jumped down from his body. He grabbed a tissue and wiped the bloody knife. Then he returned to my side. I looked at the man covered in blood. I was afraid that his life would be in danger. I pressed the button to connect to the nurse's station. A moment later, a nurse came in. She looked at me and asked, "What happened?" I pointed at the dying man on the bed. I looked at the nurse and said, "Please bandage him." The nurse followed my finger and saw the man lying on the bed covered in blood. She was shocked. "Oh my God! What's going on?" Han Hao glared at her. "Do your job. Don't ask about anything else." Hearing Han Hao's words, the nurse was scared. She obediently took out some medical equipment and started to treat the man's wounds. We stood aside and watched them. I wanted to ask more questions after they were done. Finally, the nurse left the room. I walked to the bed and looked at the man who was wrapped like a mummy. I asked softly, "Tell me, who sent you here?" The man opened his eyes. He looked at me and said softly, "Actually, I'm not too clear about who sent us here. I only know that one day when I was at home, I received a call telling me to deal with two people. One is called Duanmu Xingyao, and the other is called Leng Yoli. We've already secretly investigated you two. And we also know that you two are the young misses of the Red Tea Society and the Black Nightmare Society. This matter is a little tricky to handle, but the employer's offer is too tempting. Therefore, my brother and I took this job and decided to leave a city once we're done. At that time, you won't be able to find us even if you want to." Duanmu Ke looked at him and said fiercely, "It looks like you're well prepared." The man continued, "In fact, we've been investigating for a long time. I was in charge of following you, and my brother was in charge of following Duanmu Xingyao. We happened to see you go shopping this morning, so we knew our chance had come. We also investigated. Suri is your bodyguard, and we also know that he's Duanmu Xingyao's boyfriend. He's pretty good at fighting, so we decided to have one to restrain him and the other to kill him. When you went to Duanmu's house that day, I thought that Duanmu Ke would go with you. That way, we wouldn't be able to carry out our plan. But Duanmu Ke didn't go with you, so we knew our chance had come. Of course, we didn't know who the woman beside you was. We thought that since she was a woman, she wouldn't be a threat to us. But we were wrong. That woman's fighting skills are even better than Suri's. If we didn't have weapons in our hands, the two of us would have been beaten to the ground." "You're wrong. The two of you were beaten to the ground, but the Red Baron didn't hurt your vitals. What about you? You were trying to take his life." Thinking that the Red Baron wasn't out of danger yet, I was very angry. I roared at the man. Han Hao gently patted my shoulder to calm me down. He looked at the man and said softly, "You can continue." The man continued. "Since we were going to meet two young ladies from the Red Minghui and the Kurosawa, I felt that this matter wasn't as simple as it seemed. When I paid the deposit, I requested that we pay face-to-face in cash. I thought that the employer would refuse, but I didn't expect that he would agree." "Who is the employer? Did you find out?" I asked. After that day, I found out that there were two people who hired me. They had the same goal, to assassinate you. That's why they came to me together. I happened to know one of their subordinates, so I learned the real reason. One of them was because young Master K of the Kurosawa had a conflict with them in a bar. Later, the people from the Red Minghui arrived in time and severely injured them. The other person wanted to assassinate the Duanmu Xingyao because Duanmu Xingyao had affected her future in the fashion industry. That's why she wanted to assassinate the Duanmu Xingyao. On the surface, it looked like two different things, but in fact it was the same thing. The employer said that the cruelest way to make someone completely lose control was to hurt the person closest to them. Since they knew that the Cold Glaze and the Duanmu Xingyao were Duanmu Ke's people, as long as they assassinated you, they would be able to make the Duanmu Ke live in pain forever. That's what they wanted. That's why they wanted to assassinate you. But they didn't expect that the plan would fail. I thought for a moment and quickly dialed Suri's number. I told him what had happened. Suri was shocked. Suri asked me, "Miss, what should we do next?" Before I could open my mouth, Duanmu Ke snatched the phone away from me. He said to Suri, "Suri, I'm Duanmu Quebec, listen to my arrangements. First, tell a few of our men to guard the wards of these two people and the Red Baron. As for the matter of tracking down those people, leave it to the Kurosawa. I will give the Red Minghui a satisfactory explanation for this matter. Also, you're with Xinyao now, right? Ask Xinyao if she has offended anyone. Tell her to think about it. If she has an answer, tell me. I will investigate it. Duamuke hung up the phone. I looked at him with a dark expression. His bad habit of making decisions on his own hadn't changed at all. Duanmuke took out his phone and dialed a number. I only heard him say, I'm Duanmu Quebec, send 50 people from the society to the central hospital. I need them to help me find someone. Tell them to come over now. Duanmuke turned to look at me and Han Hao. He handed me my phone, then looked at me and gently stroked my hair. Then, he turned to Han Hao and said, I don't have anything to tell you. I'm giving you a very important task, and that is to take good care of Shaoli. If they hire someone else to ambush us while we're investigating this matter, Shaoli will be in the most danger. I believe in you, so I hope you can take good care of Shaoli. Han Hao looked at Duanmuke and nodded. He said softly, I can promise you that. But can you do it alone? It's obvious that their ultimate goal is to target you. Are you sure you can handle it alone? Duanmuke turned to look at the person lying on the bed. He said softly, Let's go. We'll talk outside. Chapter 180. The three of us walked out of the room and stopped at a place where no one else was around. I looked at Duanmuke and asked, What do you think? If you do this alone, it will definitely take a lot of time and effort. Duanmuke looked at me and said, I know, I have a plan. First, I'll let Suri find out who's targeting Xinyao. As for the people who had a conflict with me that day, I'll let our Kurosawa people find them and investigate them thoroughly. Then, we'll hand them over to the Red Minghui. The person targeting my sister might be a little more troublesome. If I'm not wrong, the person who contacted these two thugs wasn't herself. She should be abroad and must have worked with Xinyao before. Later on, Xinyao's performance was better than hers, so she couldn't take it anymore and decided to make a move. I remember that Xinyao mentioned this to me once. At the time, I didn't pay too much attention to it, but I didn't expect that it was just the beginning. I nodded and looked at Duanmu Quebec. Xiaoke, you can go do what you need to do. I understand what you mean. If you need me to do anything, I'll arrange for Suri to help you. Duanmuke looked at me and smiled. Then, he looked at Han Hao and said, Xiao Hao, I'll leave Shaoli to you. Although I want to take care of her myself, it's more important to find the real culprit behind this. Only then can we ensure Shaoli's safety. I'm not worried about leaving her in your care. But that doesn't mean I'm giving in. If you don't treat Shaoli well during this time, I definitely won't let you off. Han Hao looked at him seriously and said, Don't worry. I'll hurt myself, but I won't hurt her. Also, I promise to compete fairly with you. I won't take advantage of this opportunity to do anything to Shaoli. So please don't question my character. Duanmuke nodded. He reached out and gently stroked my hair. Shaoli, I'll be leaving first. Call me if you need anything. Then he turned and left. Han Hao and I stood there and watched his back disappear into the distance. Han Hao looked at me and whispered, Let's go. I'll take you to a place to eat first. You've been busy for so long. I shook my head and said, Let's go first. I shook my head and looked at Han Hao saying, Not yet. Come with me to the obstetrics and gynecology department to check on the baby. I've been tossing and turning all morning. I don't know if he's okay. Can you come with me first? I'm a bit worried. Little K was here just now, so I couldn't say anything. After all, he still doesn't know that I'm pregnant, okay? Han Hao nodded and helped me leave. The two of us went to the OB/GYN department. After waiting in line for a while, it was finally my turn. I asked Han Hao to wait for me outside the door. I entered the doctor's consultation room. It was the same doctor who had seen me before. When she saw me, she glared at me and then said, You finally came for a checkup. Didn't you know that your checkup date has already passed? Why did you think of coming for a checkup today? I smiled at the doctor and obediently lay down on the bed next to her. I said to the doctor, I'm sorry. Recently, I had some family matters to deal with. That's why I was delayed. The doctor glared at me again, and then she began to examine me. After a while, she looked at the monitor and said softly, Good. Everything is normal, but your body is still weak. Did you take the medicine I prescribed last time? I nodded and looked at her. Yes, I've taken them on time. Then your diet isn't balanced. Miss Lung, it's not that I want to criticize you, but you're not alone now. You have to think about the child in your belly. Where's the child's father? Did he come with you? Call him in later. I have something to tell him. The doctor stopped what she was doing and looked at me with a helpless expression. I sighed in my heart and said softly to her, I think you should know that the child's father and I are divorced. He still doesn't know that I'm pregnant. I don't plan to tell him. I want to give birth to the child myself. After all, the child is innocent. The doctor was stunned for a moment. Then she helped me up and looked at me. It's not that I want to criticize you, but I'm doing this for your own good. When a woman is pregnant, what she wants the most is to have someone by her side. A single mother like you needs more care. You should let him know, and let him take good care of you. Although your family doesn't lack money, and his family doesn't lack money, feelings can't be measured by money. I nodded and looked at her with a smile. I know. I'll keep a good attitude and take good care of myself. All right. I'm going to America soon. The baby is going to be born there. If I get on the plane, will it affect the baby? It won't, but there are still a lot of things that you should pay attention to. How about this? I'll prepare a detailed document for you. I'll send it to your email when the time comes. You can take a look at it when you have time. Okay. Thank you. I gave her my email address and left the consultation room. Han Hao was waiting for me outside. When he saw me come out, he immediately came to my side. He looked at me and asked softly, What did the doctor say? I sighed and said softly, The doctor said it's okay. The baby is fine. She said it's just that my body is too weak, and I need to replenish a lot of nutrients. But she said she'll prepare a set of ingredients for me, so that I can properly nourish the baby. That's good. I just asked about the hospital's cafeteria. I heard that the food there isn't bad. Don't eat the snacks I bought. They aren't very nutritious. Take them back to Xinyao. I'll take you to the cafeteria to eat something good. Han Hao gently touched my face. It's only been a day since I last saw you, but you've become so haggard. I feel bad for you. I shook my head and looked at him. It's okay. I'll be fine as long as I have time to rest. Let's go. Aren't you going to take me to eat something good? I'm a little hungry. Let's go now. Han Hao nodded and pulled me toward the cafeteria. When we arrived at the cafeteria, it was already past lunchtime. There weren't many people eating there. Han Hao asked me to find a place to wait for him. I randomly found a quiet place. He went to the window and started to order. It seemed like he had bought a lot. Actually, I wanted to tell him not to buy too much. After all, I couldn't finish it all. After a short while, Han Hao came back with a bunch of dishes. When he put them down, I saw that although he had ordered a lot of dishes, the amount of each dish wasn't big. However, they were all very nutritious. I guessed that he wanted me to have a balanced diet. Chapter 181. Han Hao sat across from me and looked at me with a smile. All right, the food is here. Even though this place doesn't look like much, the food looks pretty good. Try it and see if you like it. If you really don't like it, then wait for a while. I'll go home and cook for you. I picked up some food and ate it. I picked up a mouthful of food and put it in my mouth. It tasted pretty good, pretty good. I nodded and looked at Han Hao saying, It tastes pretty good, pretty good. Hurry up and eat. I've been tormenting you for a long time. Han Hao nodded with a smile and began to eat. From the looks of it, he was really hungry. In fact, he and Duan Muke were very good to me. When they found out that something had happened to me, they immediately put down what they were doing and ran over to accompany me. They didn't say anything when they found out that something had happened to me. Han Hao looked at me and stared at me. He was a little confused. Xiaoli? Xiaoli, why are you so straight? Hearing him call me, I came back to my senses. Nothing. I looked at him and said, Nothing. I lowered my head and began to eat. Han Hao looked at me and sighed. Xiaoli, are you still worried about Red Baron? Don't worry, she'll be fine. She'll be fine soon. You don't have to worry. Besides, Xiao Ke said that he would find the mastermind, so you don't have to worry. You're very weak right now, and the doctor has advised you to take good care of your body. At this time, you can't be too tired, understand? Han Hao reached out and put a piece of rib in my bowl. I looked at him and said, "Yeah, I know. But I'm worried that Xiao Ke won't be able to handle this. After all, the mastermind behind this is after him. What if this is a trap, and he gets himself into it?" Han Hao put down his chopsticks and looked at me. "Shaoli, you have to believe in the Kurosawa's strength. This kind of small matter is nothing in Duanmukei's eyes. I estimate that he'll take care of them in 2 or 3 days. Don't worry about it. Shaoli, can you tell me, do you still love Xiao Ke?" Hearing Han Hao's question, I suddenly froze. I didn't dare to look up, and continued to eat with my head down. Han Hao saw that I didn't answer, so he reached out and held my hand. He cupped my face and looked at me. "Tell me the truth, okay? There's no need for hypocrisy between us." I put down my chopsticks and looked at Han Hao. Actually, I'm very conflicted about my feelings towards him. I love him very much, but I'm also very afraid of him, because he's not the Duanmukei who loved me. He's forgotten about me because he lost his memory. The me he knows now is the one who just started to like me, not the one who went through life and death with me. This kind of conflicted feeling makes me love and hate him at the same time. I can't bear to see him suffer. I can't bear to see him indulge himself. And I don't want to see him treat me coldly. I don't want to see him look at me with cold eyes. I want to give up, but I can't. I want to tell him that I love him, but I can't. Sometimes when I calm down, I think about whether it's right or wrong for me to keep this child. If Xiao Ke remarries and has another child, and he finds out that I have his child at that time, would that child be an illegitimate child? How would he live in the Duanmu family in the future? Han Hao looked at me calmly. He was probably stunned by my series of answers. After a while he looked at me and said, "Shaoli, what about me? Will you still be with me?" I didn't know why, but when I heard Han Hao's question, there seemed to be a trace of sadness in his voice. He probably didn't want me to go back to the Duanmukei, and he probably didn't want me to be so conflicted about whether or not I should choose the Duanmu Quebec. I didn't know what to do. If there was a man in the world that I didn't want to hurt the most, it would definitely be Han Hao. From the beginning, he had been good to me from the bottom of his heart. He was also the one who understood what I needed the most at any time. He was such a handsome man with a good figure, a good family background, and a gentle personality. I looked at Han Hao and said, "Xiao Hao, I understand that you are good to me, and I did promise you that I would accept your feelings for me. However, I am now a single mother. I can ignore myself, but I have to take care of my child. So, until the baby is born, I won't think about my own matters, because I still have things to take care of during this period of time. I hope you can understand. You should know that the baby is the most important thing to me. You won't deprive me of the most important person to me, right? If you really want to be with me, and you want to be with me for the rest of your life, if you are willing to wait until the baby grows up, and at that time, if I have no other thoughts in my heart, I will choose to be with you. Is that okay, Xiao Hao? I hope you can understand me." Han Hao looked at me and nodded. He reached out to touch my face and said softly, "Silly, for you. I am willing to wait as long as it takes. 10 years, 8 years, it doesn't matter. As long as I have your word, it is enough. If you choose Xiao Ke at that time, I won't be angry with you, because the days with you are the most important. I don't want to think about anything else." I smiled at Han Hao and said, "Thank you for understanding me. I understand that you are good to me, and I will cherish it. You have done so many things for me, and I will remember it in my heart. I am not an ungrateful person." Han Hao touched my face and said softly, "Silly, hurry up and eat. The food is getting cold." I nodded, and the two of us continued to eat. This meal was timely. Maybe I was really tired from the whole morning, but I felt much better after eating this meal. Han Hao ran to buy me a cup of warm milk. I didn't know who he had heard it from, but warm milk was good for pregnant women and the fetus. He was really like a super stay-at-home dad now, and he knew how to take care of people. He even said that he would take me to buy daily necessities and milk powder for pregnant women one day. I suddenly felt that Han Hao's back was shining brightly, but in my heart, I thought, if Duanmukei knew that I was pregnant, would he take care of me as well as Han Hao? Or would it be like what I had thought in the past, that he would not acknowledge this child. Han Hao and I were sitting in the cafeteria after eating and chatting when my phone suddenly rang. I took it out and saw that it was Red Minghui's internal number. I quickly picked it up. Hello. Miss, please come over quickly. The Red Baron is awake. Chapter 182. What? The Red Baron has woken up? I jumped out of my chair when I heard the news. Han Hao, who was sitting opposite me, was shocked. Okay, I got it. Hurry up and call the doctor to give the Red Baron a thorough checkup. I'll be there in a minute. I hung up the phone and looked at Han Hao. I'm not eating. I just received a call that the Red Baron has woken up. I have to go. I couldn't wait for his reply. I turned and ran towards the Red Baron's ward. This was the best thing I'd heard all day. I couldn't care less about my pregnancy. I'd completely forgotten about it. After a while, I finally arrived at the ICU. I saw the Red Baron's ward. The Red Minghui's people were standing at the door. I walked over. When they saw me, they greeted me politely and said, Miss, you're here. We've already arranged for the doctor to give the Red Baron another checkup. Okay, I got it. I was about to push the door open, but they stopped me. I looked at them in confusion. The person who stopped me said, Miss, I'm sorry. The doctor just said that they're not sure if the Red Baron is out of danger. That's why they don't allow family members to visit the ward. They said that if you come, you should wait outside for the doctor's checkup. They'll talk to you in detail when they come out. I looked inside the ward. The doctor was examining the Red Baron. I knew I couldn't barge in. I thought for a while and nodded. Okay, I got it. Thank you for being so responsible for the Red Baron. It's what we should do. They bowed to me, although I used to hate my identity as the Miss of the Red Minghui's Lung family. It seemed that this identity was still very advantageous in front of people. This identity provided the Red Baron with the best medical team and the best medical services. Even the subordinates of the Red Minghui treated the Red Baron with respect. That was indeed the case. After all, she was the confidant of the Red Minghui's chairman, the personal bodyguard of the Miss of the Red Minghui, and the best fighter of the Red Minghui. Just these few identities were enough for her to stand firm among the members of the Red Minghui. Just as I was lost in my thoughts, the door of the ward opened. The doctor and the nurse walked out of the ward. He walked up to me and said, Hello, Miss Lung. I've already done a systematic examination of the patient. The Red Baron is no longer in critical condition. Her physical indicators are very good. She can be transferred to a normal ward now. However, the patient is still very weak. She needs to stay in the hospital for another week for observation before she can leave. I nodded and looked at the doctor. Thank you. I'll go through the procedures for her transfer later. Doctor, is there anything else I need to pay attention to? How about this? I'll organize a medical order and have my assistant send it to you. If there's anything you don't understand, you can ask me at any time, the doctor said to me with a smile. I understood what he meant. I smiled and said to him, Okay, how about this? I'll have my subordinate come over to get it from you later. I also have something to give you. The doctor immediately understood what I meant. He nodded with a smile and left. At this time, Han Hao ran to my side. He glared at me and whispered in my ear. Why are you running so fast? Don't you know you're pregnant? It's a good thing that you're awake. Why are you in such a hurry? I was awakened by Han Hao's sudden scolding. Only then did I realize that I shouldn't be running, because I was pregnant. It seems I was too excited. I suddenly remembered that I had to transfer the Red Baron. I turned around and took out a bank card from my bag. I handed it to a Red Minghui and said to him, I'll have to trouble you to go through the procedures for the Red Baron's transfer. Remember, you must arrange a single ward facing south for the Red Baron. Money isn't important. The most important thing is that the Red Baron must have a good environment to rest in. Understood, Mississippi. I'll do it right away. The man took the card from my hand and left. Han Hao turned to look at me and asked, Why don't you just leave this to me? What if he doesn't pick a good ward for you? I know you very well. Why don't you call him back? I'll go and do it. I reached out and pulled Han Hao over. I looked at him and shook my head. Don't go. I'll arrange for you to do something else. This doctor is in charge of the Red Baron's treatment. I have a red envelope here. But it's not convenient for me to meet him. You can send it to him for me. Just say that I thank him for doing his best to save the Red Baron, and that I'm very grateful to him. Han Hao looked at me, and was stunned for a moment. Then he pushed my hand away. He stroked my hair and said softly, "Silly, you should have said so earlier. I have cash here. I'll go and deliver it. You can keep your money for yourself. The Red Baron seems to have woken up. Go and accompany her. I'll come back and talk to you later." Then, Han Hao waved at me and left. Looking at his back, I felt gratified. He was the man who understood me the most. He was probably the only one. Speaking of which, it was strange. I had spent more time with Duan Muke than him. But even Duan Muke didn't understand me as well as he did. Han Hao really understood me. He even knew what I was thinking, and what I might do next. He already knew that I loved Duan Muke, but he didn't force me or complain to me. He also didn't leave me, because of this matter, when I needed help the most. Instead, he always did a lot of things for me. I really didn't treat him well. I looked at the Red Baron in the ward. Her eyes were gradually opening. It seemed that she had regained consciousness. At that moment, a nurse came over. I called out to her, and asked if I could visit her in the ward. Then I opened the door and walked in. I closed the door, and turned to look at Red Ju. She turned her head to look at me, and squeezed out a smile with great effort. At that time my heart broke, and my tears couldn't stop flowing. In order not to let her see me cry, I tried my best not to be obvious. I walked to the side of the hospital bed, and reached out to hold Red Ju's hand. Her hand was cold, and her hand was connected to the 4 bottle. Looking at it, I felt very distressed. Red Ju saw my tears, but she still forced a smile and said to me in a very weak voice, "Don't cry." Hearing the Red Baron's words, I cried even harder. I held her hand and cried, "Red Baron, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry." Chapter 183. The Red Baron shook her head and looked at me. "Don't be like this, Mississippi. I'm awake now. Don't be sad." I wiped the tears off my face and looked at the Red Baron. I nodded gently. "Rest well. You've just woken up, so don't talk too much. Han Hao has already helped you with the transfer procedures. Don't worry, he's arranged the best for you." The Red Baron's eyes were a little wet. She looked at me and said softly, "I've troubled you. You've done so much for me. Thank you very much." I reached out and touched the Red Baron's face. "It's what I should do. Don't worry. Rest well. I won't accompany you for now. I don't want to disturb your rest. I'm going to see how Han Hao's transfer procedures are going." I stood up and turned around to leave. Suddenly, the Red Baron called me, "Mississippi." I stopped and turned around to look at her. "What's wrong, Red Baron? Is there anything else?" The Red Baron looked at me and said softly, "Miss, you must be careful. There might be other people who could be a threat to you. Don't act on your own." I nodded and looked at her. "Okay, I understand. Thank you." Then I turned around and left the room. When I walked out of the room, I called the Red Minghui's people who were standing nearby, and told them to keep a close watch. If there were any strangers near the room, they were to inform me immediately. I stood at the door of the room, and thought of Han Hao. Just as I was about to go find him, he appeared in front of me. He looked at me and said, "Shaoli, the Red Baron's room has been arranged. I've asked the nurses to tidy up the room. Do you want to go take a look now?" I thought for a moment and nodded. "Okay, take me there." Han Hao smiled at me and pulled me forward. At this time, my phone suddenly rang. I stopped and took out my phone. It was Suri. It seemed something had happened on his side. I answered the call. "Suri, what happened?" "Miss, it's not a big deal. I've already arranged what Duan Muke asked me to do. Also, Xinyao has recovered, but she's crying and screaming to see you. She said she's sorry for implicating you, and wants to apologize to you in person. I told her you were busy, but she insisted that I call you. I couldn't persuade her. What should I do?" Tell Xinyao that I'm fine, and tell her to be good. I still have some things to do, and I don't know when I'll be done. Tell her not to wait for me, and let her rest." Before I finished, Xinyao's voice sounded from the other side of the phone. Sister-in-law. Come back quickly, sister-in-law. I have a lot of things to tell you. Come back quickly, okay? Suri seemed to have snatched the phone away from him. He whispered to me, Miss, you see? I really don't know what to do. Xinyao's cries sounded from the other side of the phone. It was true that I should be by her side when she really needed me, but I was worried about the Red Baron's health. I sighed and said softly, Okay, I got it. I'll make the arrangements and contact you later. I hung up the phone and looked at Han Hao, shaking my head helplessly. Before I could say anything, Han Hao walked to my side. He reached out and touched my face. Xinyao misses you. She suffered a lot today. You should go back and accompany her. I turned to look in the direction of the Red Baron's ward and said softly, But I'm worried about the Red Baron. I'm afraid that something will happen to her again. Han Hao looked at me and pulled me into his arms. He whispered in my ear, It's okay. Go home and see Xinyao. I'll be here. I'll stay here and watch over her. I've already told my family that I won't be home for a few days because of something. I'll stay here and accompany the Red Baron for you. Don't worry, just go home. Then, Han Hao kissed my forehead gently. I looked at Han Hao with embarrassment and said, Thank you for your hard work. I'll come back after I've settled Xinyao down. I'll be quick. Don't worry. Han Hao smiled at me and hugged me. I left the hospital. On the way home, I felt exhausted. Maybe it was because I was too tired. I didn't know how I got home. As soon as I entered the living room, I saw Xinyao running towards me. She saw me and threw herself on me. She hugged me tightly and cried, Sister-in-law, you're finally back. I gently hugged Xinyao, stroked her hair and softly said, Little fool, why are you crying? Are you feeling better? Suri said you wanted to see me, so I came back immediately. Xinyao didn't let go of me. She hugged me tightly and said softly, Sister-in-law, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm better now. It's all thanks to Suri. Oh right, how's the Red Baron? Has she woken up? I suddenly felt suffocated. I patted Xinyao's back and said softly, Little Xinyao, come down first. I can't breathe. Xinyao let go of my hand that was hugging me tightly. She pulled me to sit on the sofa. I looked at her and said, Red Baron has woken up and is out of danger, but she is still very weak. I didn't dare to disturb her. I wanted to go to her new ward to take a look, but then I received a call from Su Rue. He said that you missed me so much, so I rushed back immediately. It's good to see that you are fine. Xinyao and I were chatting when Suri came out of the kitchen with a plate of fruit. When he saw me, he said, Miss, you're finally back. I can finally rest. Xinyao was too annoying. I was scared. Xinyao curled her lips and looked at Suri. You're bad. I was scared. That's why I stuck to you. Suri looked at Xinyao in disbelief. At first you were scared, but later, you made me feel like my body had been hollowed out. Before Suri could finish, Xinyao interrupted him and said loudly, Bad man. Don't say it. After that, Xinyao hugged my arm tightly and leaned on my shoulder. I immediately understood what had happened between the two of them. Something indescribable must have happened between the two of them after Xinyao recovered. I thought for a moment and quickly changed the topic. Oh, by the way, Suri, did Duanmuke call you after that? Suri nodded and said he called. He asked if Xinyao remembered who wanted to frame her. I also checked with Xinyao. When she was working in the US, there really was such a person. She was Xinyao's colleague. The two of them had a conflict. Chapter 184. What's going on? I looked at Xinyao and asked, Xinyao, what's going on? Tell me all about it. Xinyao sat up. She looked at me and said, Aya, I didn't take that woman seriously at first, but I didn't expect her heart to be so evil. I didn't think too much about it. I thought that after the two of us quarreled at the meeting, it would be fine. Maybe it was because I really hurt her heart. That can't be. She doesn't look that weak. Who is this person? I asked Xinyao anxiously. She is Li Li. Her name is Li Hui, a designer of the international brand company that chose me. She is the kind of designer who has signed an agreement with the company, and I was hired with a high salary. Because I am still a little famous in the foreign fashion industry, when I first entered their company to open a design studio, Everyone looked at me with envy and a sense of superiority, but only she looked at me with that kind of jealousy and hatred. I felt uncomfortable at that time. But because I had just arrived at a new company, and I was also aiming to design, I didn't think too much about it. Their company knew my fame and connections, so they released new clothes for 3 consecutive seasons. The clothes I designed were all the main products, and the sales were all very good. Lee Huey's clothes were also very good, but the sales were average, and the salary I signed with their company was also transparent. Think about it this way. My salary is higher than hers, and the products are also the most popular on the market, so the commission is higher than hers. As an internal designer of the company, she actually couldn't overshadow my limelight, so she might have become hostile towards me because of this. Then you said that you two quarreled at the meeting. What was that about? I asked, not understanding. Well, it was during the 4th season's new design department. The company asked me to still be the main designer, and she wasn't happy. At the meeting, she said that she wouldn't release new clothes this time, because she didn't want to be stepped on by me. She also said that my work was plagiarized. If she had said anything else, I wouldn't have refuted her. But she said that my work was plagiarized because I worked from dawn to dusk to create them. After she said that, I became agitated and directly refuted her at the meeting. In the end, the company's management was very angry. They canceled Li's new clothes and her quarterly bonus. She was so angry that she took a long leave of absence. I couldn't think of anyone who could harm me. After listening to Xingyao, I nodded thoughtfully. Xingyao held my hand and said softly, "I'm sorry, sister-in-law. I've implicated you. I really didn't think that something like this would happen. I've also implicated you and the Red Baron. She's just out of danger, and I feel like a sinner. You've told Xiao Kei everything, right? Xiao Kei seems to want to get rid of these people from the root. We already know who the person who targeted Xiao Kei is. This matter should be solved soon." Suri looked at me. "I've already told Duanmu Quebec. He said that he knows how to solve this problem. He said that it will be solved soon. He asked me to take good care of Xingyao." After listening to Suri, I was suddenly worried about Duanmu Quebec. He had shouldered everything by himself. Could he do it alone? What if something happened like the other day? I was really worried. I thought for a moment and decided to give Duanmu Kei a call. I dialed Duanmu Kei's number. It took a while for someone to pick up. Duanmu Kei's call was answered by a woman's voice. I was stunned. "Who are you? Why are you picking up Xiao Kei's call?" "Oh no. Young Master Kei is with me right now. I want to take him to the hospital, but he doesn't want to go. Do you know young Master Kei? If you know him, can you come to the basketball court?" "What? What hospital? What happened? Who are you? How is Xiao Kei? Put him on the phone." I suddenly panicked. Did something happen to Xiao Kei again? The answer came from the other side of the phone. "I'm from Kurosawa. Young Master Kei just took us to find those people who had a conflict in the bar. Originally, we wanted to leave them to us, but when we saw those people, young Master Kei directly rushed to the front and wrestled with those people. When we saw young Master Kei rush forward, we followed him. When we finally knocked them down, young Master Kei fell to the ground. We originally wanted to take him to the hospital, but he didn't agree and even shouted at us. We didn't dare to disobey his orders, so we could only arrange for our brothers to take those people to the police station first." "You're at the basketball court? Is it the basketball court of those people? I'll go there right now." "All right, I'm Cold Glaze. Thank you for taking care of Xiao Quebec. I'll be there right away." Then I hung up the phone. Suri looked at me and said, "What's wrong? Big miss, did something happen to young Master Duanmu?" I nodded and looked at him and said, "And it should be. Something might have happened. Xiao Kei seems to have taken care of those people. I have to go there. You stay with Xingyao. I'll go to the basketball court and take a look. If the situation isn't right, I'll call you. With my current identity, they can't do whatever they want." With that, I took my bag and left. On the way to the basketball court, I drove very fast. I was a bit hesitant. What if the person who picked up the phone was lying? What if he was just tricking me? Did something really happen to Xiao Kei? I shouldn't worry about it for now. I'll know when I get there. He took the risk for me. I can't harm him for my own benefit. Finally, I arrived at the basketball court. After I parked the car, I ran inside. There weren't many people in the basketball court. In the far corner of the basketball court, I saw a messy pile of sticks and sticks on the ground. It seemed like there was a fight here. A person was lying on a chair next to the basketball court, and another person was sitting next to him. I quickly walked over. Sure enough, the person lying on the chair was Dwanmuke, and the person sitting next to him should be the person who picked up the phone. I couldn't care about anything else. I ran to Dwanmuke's side and looked at him. His body was dirty. The dust and blood had stained his white shirt. There were injuries on his face too. There was a bloodstain at the corner of his mouth. I reached out and touched his face gently. The moment I touched his face, Dwanmuke immediately opened his eyes. He reached out and twisted my arm in the opposite direction. Ah! I screamed. It was only then that he realized it was me. Chapter 185. Shaoli? Why is it you? I didn't hurt you, did I? When Dwanmuke saw me, he quickly sat up and let go of me. He gently massaged my wrist. It hurts, right? I didn't do it on purpose. I thought someone was going to attack me. I shook my head and looked at Dwanmuke. I'm fine. What about you? How are you? Your subordinate called me and told me that you were injured and didn't want to go to the hospital. I hurried over. Dwanmuke looked at me and smiled. He reached out and hugged me. Thank you. Thank you for being so worried about me. I haven't finished my business here. When I'm done, I'll go to the hospital for a checkup. You still have things you haven't finished? I leaned on Dwanmuke's shoulder and asked softly. Yeah, I still have to go to the police station to deal with the aftermath. Dwanmuke gently stroked my hair. At this moment, the man standing next to Dwanmuke walked over. He looked at us and said, Young Master K, leave the rest to me. You should go to the hospital to deal with your wound. Dwanmuke let go of me. He turned to look at the man and said softly, That's good too. You go and take care of it. If there's anything you can't handle, give me a call and I'll rush over. I'm really tired and want to rest. All right, young Master Quebec. I'll take my leave. Then the man left. Dwanmuke turned to look at me and smiled. Before I could react, he reached out and hugged me tightly. I was a little stunned. I leaned on his shoulder and asked, What's wrong? Is it okay to leave the matter to him? It's okay. I trust this child. Just let him deal with it. I'm really tired. I want to rest. Can you stay with me for a while? Dwanmuke hugged me tightly. It was as though he was searching for the warmth that he had lost. He was afraid of losing it. I thought about it for a moment. Han Hao was taking care of the Red Baron, and Suri was taking care of Xinyao. This made me happy. I nodded and said, Okay, I'll accompany you. How about we go to the hospital first? Your wound is pretty deep. If we don't treat it quickly, it might get infected. Xiao Ke, I'll take you to the hospital. Dwanmuke shook his head and said softly, I don't want to go to the hospital. I really don't want to go. Let's go back to the villa in the suburbs. How about you stay with me until tomorrow? I looked at Dwanmuke and said softly, I'll give Han Hao and Suri a call and see how things are going. They're taking care of 2 girls for me. I feel a little guilty. Dwanmuke thought for a moment and nodded in agreement. I took out my phone and called Han Hao first. Xiao Hao, it's Shaoli. How's the Red Baron? Did the transfer go well? It went well. Don't worry. I've arranged for a caretaker. She'll take care of the Red Baron 24/7. The Red Baron is resting in the hospital room. Her condition is pretty good. She's sleeping right now. I won't let you two talk on the phone. Okay. Thank you. I have some things that I can't get through today. Xiao Ke's matter has been settled, but he's injured. He doesn't have anyone by his side. I have to stay by his side. Is that okay? It's been hard on you. You have to take care of the Red Baron. My words were a little weak. I felt a little apologetic about leaving the Red Baron in Han Hao's care. Han Hao thought for a moment and then said, Okay. That's not a problem. Is Xiao Ke okay? It's fine as long as he's okay. I'll take care of the Red Baron. You're fine. Call me if anything happens. Okay, I got it. Thank you, Xiao Hao. If anything happens to the Red Baron, you have to let me know. Then I hung up. Duanmuke watched me make the call. His expression was very calm. It didn't seem like he was unhappy. I looked at him and smiled. I have to call Suri. I picked up my phone and was about to call Suri, but Duanmuke stopped me. He looked at me and said softly, I've already called Suri. He and Xinyao are doing well. I've already applied for leave for you. You just have to focus on staying with me. Duanmuke reached out and touched my face. He smiled and looked at me. Then he gently kissed me on the lips. I was stunned by the sudden kiss. Duanmuke looked at me with a smile and said softly, Silly, you look really good when you're stunned. Let's go. I'm tired. Come home with me. I smiled and reached out to hug Duanmuke tightly. I said softly, Xiaokei, it's been hard on you. You've done so much for me. I'm really sorry that you got hurt. I quietly leaned into Duanmuke's embrace. I hadn't felt this warmth in a long time. I didn't expect to have this embrace again after the divorce. Moreover, I took the initiative to hug Duanmuke back. I didn't know why I took the initiative. Maybe it was because I missed the time I spent with Duanmuke back. Therefore, I especially cherished this hug because it was warm and came from the bottom of my heart. Duanmuke. And I went on the road to the villa in the suburbs. On the way back, I bought some groceries. I wanted to go back and cook something delicious for Duanmuke back. After thinking about it, I remembered that I hadn't cooked for him for a long time. When I was in poor health, he took care of me. He was such a clean man, and he was willing to cook for me. I should take good care of him this time. I decided to prepare a sumptuous dinner for him. When we arrived at the villa, I hurriedly treated Duanmuke's wounds. Duanmuke lay on the bed. I brought the first aid kit to his side and helped him take off his shirt. Duanmuke's body was still in good shape, but there were many big and small wounds on his body. My heart ached when I saw them. I used an alcohol cotton ball to gently wipe his wounds. Duanmuke lay on the bed with his eyes closed. He frowned and looked like he was in pain. I stopped what I was doing and looked at him. I asked softly, Does it hurt a lot? Duanmuke shook his head and looked at me. I'm fine, Xiaoli. Don't be afraid. The alcohol cotton ball stimulated the wounds. It doesn't hurt too much. Just bear with it, and you'll be fine. I nodded and looked at Duanmuke. Bear with it. I'll be gentle. I continued to treat Duanmuke's wounds. There were more than a dozen wounds, big and small. When I finally finished treating him, there were a lot of bandages on his body. Looking at his funny appearance, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Duanmuke looked at me and chuckled. He extended his hand and pulled my arm. I fell into his embrace and Duanmuke hugged me tightly. Chapter 186. I lay in Duanmuke's arms for a long time. I could clearly hear his heartbeat. After a while, I softly said to Duanmuke, Xiaokei, you haven't eaten yet, right? Let go of me first. I'll go make you something to eat. Then I struggled to get out of his arms. Unexpectedly, Duanmuke hugged me even tighter. He gently stroked my back and softly said to me, Don't worry. Lie down with me for a while. I was stunned. Before I could react, Duanmuke used all his strength to carry me onto the bed. Then he flipped over and pressed me under his body. Xiaokei, Xiaokei, wait a moment. Xiaokei. Just as I came back to my senses, Duanmuke had already taken off all the clothes on my body in a few moves. I laid down completely naked under Duanmuke's body just like that. I was already used to it. I helplessly looked at Duanmuke and asked, Xiaokei, how much do you love taking off my clothes? It's a bit cold. Can I put them back on? Duanmuke looked at me and sneered. He pressed on top of me and conveniently pulled the blanket over me. Duanmuke looked at me and softly stroked my face. He smiled and said, Xiaoli, I missed you so much. He softly kissed my forehead and then lay down beside me, holding me in his arms. I didn't know why, but maybe it was because I was too sleepy. I leaned against Duanmuke's chest. I suddenly thought that Duanmuke wouldn't want to have sex with me again, right? I raised my head and looked at Duanmuke. In a soft voice I said, Xiaokei, you can't move around today. You have to be good and lie down. Otherwise you'll be done for, okay? Duanmuke stroked my hair and immediately guessed what I was thinking. He looked at me and said, I know. I don't want to have sex with you. I just want to quietly hug you like this and sleep with you. Don't worry, I promise you. I nodded and quietly leaned against Dwanmukei's chest. I closed my eyes and felt a little sleepy. I guess Dwanmukei was also sleepy. The two of us gradually fell asleep. When I woke up again, it was already night time. Dwanmukei was still hugging me. I gently raised my head. He hadn't woken up yet. I quietly sat up in his arms and looked at Dwanmukei. He was sleeping like a child. Seeing his honest appearance, I reached out and gently touched his face. I was afraid to wake him up, but I was also afraid that he would be too hungry when he woke up. Therefore, I decided to get up first and prepare a meal for him. I slowly climbed out of the bed and quietly went downstairs to the kitchen. I began to prepare dinner for Dwanmukei. I tried to keep my voice as low as possible, afraid that I would wake him up. I made 4 dishes, all of which were light and nutritious. When I was almost done, it was time to wake Dwanmukei up. I quietly walked upstairs. When I entered the bedroom, I saw that Dwanmukei was still sleeping. I walked to the bedside and sat next to him. I gently stroked his face and said, "Xiaokei, it's time to get up and eat. You still need to take your medicine later." Dwanmukei moved a little. He rubbed his eyes and rolled over to sleep again. I gently patted Dwanmukei's shoulder twice and said helplessly, "Xiaokei, hurry up and get up. The food is getting cold. Xiaokei, hurry up and get up." Dwanmukei rolled over and finally woke up. He rubbed his sleepy eyes and looked at me. "Xiaoli, what time is it? It's already night time. Hurry up and get up. I've already prepared dinner. Do you want to eat here or go downstairs?" Dwanmukei sat up and looked at me. "Let's go downstairs and eat." Then he stood up from the bed. I was afraid that he would be cold, so I put on a loose t-shirt for him. Then, I pulled him to the dining room. I brought the food to the table. Dwanmukei sat down. When he saw the food, he said in surprise, "Oh my God, you made so much delicious food. I'm just hungry. This is great." Dwanmukei picked up a mouthful of food and put it in his mouth. Then he nodded and said, "It's so delicious. I haven't eaten such delicious food in a long time." I sat across from him and smiled at him. "Eat slowly. Don't rush. I won't fight with you. You can have it all." Dwanmukei looked at me as he ate. "Xiaoli, before I lost my memory, were we living such a happy life? I didn't know that you could cook so well. Is it too late for me to find out now?" I shook my head and looked at Dwanmukei. "Don't bring up the past. Do you feel better? Does your wound still hurt?" "Much better. After sleeping, I feel much better. It's late. It seems that we slept for a long time. Xiaoli, are you asleep?" I nodded and said, "I slept soundly." I nodded. I fell asleep, and I slept very soundly. When I woke up, you were still sleeping, so I didn't wake you up. First, I'll prepare the meal. As long as you're okay, it's fine. I'll check on you later, and I'll change the bandages frequently. I can't let the wound get infected." Dwanmukei looked at me in shock. Then he smiled pervertedly at me. "Does that mean you have to check my whole body?" I immediately understood Dwanmukei's true meaning. I extended my hand and lightly knocked on Dwanmukei's head. With a face full of disdain, I said, "Your head is full of nonsensical thoughts. You should heal your injuries first before we talk about it." Dwanmukei put down his chopsticks and looked at me. "I was just joking with you. Isn't that normal? My body is fine. I'm fine." I thought for a moment and nodded. "That's good. Let's eat. Eat more." I stayed by Dwanmukei's side and watched him eat. I was in a good mood. I felt as if I had returned to the time when I was with Dwanmukei unconsciously. Whenever I saw him, my mood would improve. The baby in my belly should be able to feel my happy mood. After dinner, Dwanmukei and I cleaned up the kitchen. I suggested that we go for a walk in the garden. Dwanmukei agreed. He put his arm around my shoulder and accompanied me for a walk in the garden. The night air was nice. I leaned against Dwanmukei's chest and felt very calm. Dwanmukei hugged me. He gently stroked my hair and said, "You're acting a little strange today. Why are you suddenly taking the initiative to hug me? In the past, when I wanted to hug you, you would struggle. Today, I'm not used to it." I leaned tightly into Dwanmukei's embrace, hugging him as I said softly, "Let me hug you quietly for a while." I don't know how much longer I can hug you. I admit that I can't forget my feelings for you, but I can't accept your love for me. Chapter 187. Dwamuke nodded. He held me in his arms and said softly, "You can hug me as long as you want. I want to hug you like this forever, you know? I missed you so much. After you kicked me out that day, I didn't sleep at all after I got home. I've been thinking about why you rejected me. Even if you said you didn't love me and wanted to choose Han Hao, I wouldn't mind. But why did you reject both of us? Don't you need someone to take care of you and take care of your heart?" I rubbed myself against Dwanmuke's chest and said softly, "No need. I don't want to hurt either of you. Both of you are too strong-willed. If I hurt either of you, it would cause you to break down. Wouldn't I be a bad person then?" Dwanmuke hugged me and said softly, "Silly, you think too much. All right, let's not talk about this. At least I'm glad that you didn't reject me. I still have a chance. If Xiao Hao knew that you were hugging me like this, he would be furious." I looked up at Dwanmuke and said, "Xiao Hao knows that I'm with you. Of course, he also knows that I still love you. But when he finds out, he doesn't feel good. I can see that. But no matter what, he's been very good to me. He's protected me a lot and did a lot of things for me. I'm very grateful to him. But you don't want to thank him with love, because you only have me in your heart." Dwanmuke looked at me. He lifted my chin and kissed me deeply. I looked up at Dwanmuke and said softly, "Let's go back. It's getting late. I want to call Xiao Hao and Suri and see how they are doing. I'm afraid that they're hiding something from me." Dwanmuke nodded and looked at me. "All right, you call Suri. I have something to say to Han Hao. You're not going to tell Han Hao what I told you, are you?" I looked at Dwanmuke with disdain. Dwanmuke gently scratched my nose and smiled. "I'm not as stupid as you think. Don't think too much about things between men. Hurry up and call Suri." I nodded and walked to the side to call Suri. "Suri, how are you and Xinyao at home? Is her condition better?" Suri's voice. "Xinyao's condition is good. She's playing with Susu now. She's back to how she used to be. That's good. It's fine as long as you guys are fine. Are you and young Master Duanmu okay? Is young Master Duanmu okay with his injuries?" "We're fine. Don't worry." "Oh, that's right, I remember now. Just now, the brothers in our society received the latest notice. Li Hui, the person who hired the assassin to harm Xinyao, will be attending the new product launch in China. She will be flying to a city tomorrow. Xinyao has also just received the notice to attend the launch. I'm afraid that she will take the opportunity to frame Xinyao again. Although I can protect Xinyao, my ability is still limited. Moreover, without an invitation, no one can enter the conference. Our brothers in the society certainly can't enter the venue, so the protection will be greatly reduced." "Eldest Miss, what do you think about this matter? How about this?" I thought for a moment. "Tell Xinyao to go as usual tomorrow. Ask Xinyao to get you a ticket. You can go with her. Then arrange for our brothers to stand guard outside. Tomorrow, I'll go with Xiao Quebec. When the time comes, we'll stay by Xinyao's side. The four of us should be fine." "I think it's fine. Then it's settled. I'll send you the address of the launch later. If there's anything, just call me. I won't disturb the two of you. All right, no need to thank me. Please call me Lei Feng." I'm hanging up. He hung up before I could scold him. I shook my head helplessly. I looked at Duanmu Quebec. He hadn't hung up yet. I thought for a moment and decided to go back to the living room to wait for him. While I was at it, I tidied up the room. The last time the two of us came here, the room was in a mess. I walked to the living room and started to tidy it up. When I was almost done, Dwanmuke walked in from outside. When he saw me tidying up the room, he hurried over to help me. I looked at Dwanmuke and said softly, "You finished your call with Han Hao? How's the Red Baron? Is there any problem?" Dwanmuke looked at me and said, "Pretty good. Xiao Hao told me that the Red Baron's vitals are all normal. He's resting right now. The doctor said that he can be discharged in a week. He's accompanying the Red Baron now. I heard that he's also arranging accommodation. He took into account that the Red Baron is a girl, so he rented a bed in the ward next door. He told you not to worry." I nodded and said softly, "All right, I'm sorry to trouble him." I looked at Duanmuke and said softly, "What else did you say to him?" Duanmuke smiled and looked at me. "Nothing much. I just told him that we should go out for a meal one day. It's been a long time since us two brothers have eaten or gone shopping together." Black lines appeared on my face as I looked at Duanmuke. I said softly, "So you two men always go out for a meal when you have nothing to do? Heavens, you're just like girls." Duanmuke put his arm around my waist and said softly, "Silly, Xiaohao and I have similar tastes. We often go out for a walk together, but it's not strange. We're often hit on by girls we meet, but we're often mistaken for good friends. It seems like us two men shouldn't go out for a walk together." I smiled and looked at him. "I'm not saying it's bad. I just think it's weird. Next time you two go out for a walk, take me with you, okay? I don't want to. We have a lot of things to talk about, and it's not convenient for us to have you in the middle. Let us two good friends be alone. Don't worry, I won't quarrel with him. After all, we've been brothers for so many years. By the way, how's Xinyao doing?" I thought about what Suri had told me. I thought that I should tell Duanmuke, so I told him what had happened. I looked at Duanmuke and said, "Do you think there's a problem with my arrangement? Or should we think of a way to bring our brothers into the venue? I'm afraid that we won't be able to protect Xinyao. That woman is too scheming. If she tries to harm Xinyao, I don't know what will happen." Chapter 188. Duanmuke shook his head and looked at me. "That won't be necessary. If we bring our buddies in, Li Hui will definitely get suspicious. After all, everyone in the circle knows each other. Even if they don't know each other, they should at least look familiar. If you bring your buddies in, and she doesn't recognize them, then there will definitely be problems. Let's just go with the few of us. As for the invitation, you don't have to worry. Someone at the entrance will give it to me, but you'll need to wear formal attire." Duanmuke looked at the time. "It's not convenient to buy formal attire right now." I thought for a moment and looked at Duanmuke. "Xiaoke, how about I go home and get it? I have a few sets at home." Duanmuke shook his head and looked at me. He gently caressed my face and said, "That won't do. Those designs are all old. I don't want you to wear an old gown tomorrow. I don't want others to look at you with mocking eyes. I definitely won't allow that. How about this? We'll go buy it tomorrow morning. Wait for me to contact someone first." Duanmuke sat on the sofa and hugged me. He picked up his phone and fiddled with it for a while. Then he looked at me and said, "Okay, it's done." I looked at him with a puzzled expression. "What's done? Who did you contact?" "That's a secret. I'll tell you tomorrow. Let's go. It's time to go to bed with me. I still want to sleep naked." Duanmuke looked at me with a perverted smile. That expression made me want to punch him. I overruled. Before I could retort, Duanmuke interrupted me. He looked at me and softly said, "Be good. This is a rare opportunity. You have to listen to me today. Let's go upstairs." Before I could react, Duanmuke picked me up and carried me upstairs. That night, the two of us slept soundly. Duanmuke didn't do anything to me. He just stripped me naked and hugged me to sleep the whole night. Although I was speechless at his strange fetish, I still cherished the rare chance to spend time alone with Duanmuke. I had already expressed my true feelings to him, and he knew my feelings. I didn't want to hide anything from him. Although I still couldn't calm my heart down to accept him, I believed that time was the best medicine to heal all wounds. After a long time, everything would be fine. The next morning I woke up early. Duanmuke hadn't woken up yet. I gently kissed him on the cheek. He gently rubbed his eyes, but he still didn't wake up. That lazy pig. I quietly got up and went to the kitchen to prepare breakfast. My heart was still very complicated. After a week after the Red Baron was discharged from the hospital, I might have to prepare to go abroad. At that time, I didn't know when I would be able to return to China. I didn't know how many more times I could spend alone with Duanmuke. At least before the baby was born, I could let her have more contact with her biological father. Speaking of which, it was strange. The baby had been very quiet for the past 2 days, and didn't have much of a reaction. It seemed that he also knew that Duan Muke was his biological father. Blood relations were really strange things. While I was concentrating on preparing breakfast in the kitchen, someone suddenly hugged me from behind. I was startled. Duan Muke gently kissed my neck from behind. I was startled. Duan Muke said softly, "What are you doing, darling?" My face turned red. I whispered to Duan Muke, "I'm making breakfast. It's almost done. You should go and wash up." Duan Muke turned me around and gently kissed my forehead. Then he went to wash up. I put the breakfast on the dining table. Duan Muke also finished washing up. The two of us had a simple bite. Before I could clean up the kitchen, Duan Muke pulled me out of the villa. He said that he would take me to buy a dress. I looked at myself carefully. I was still wearing yesterday's clothes. They were wrinkled and covered in dust. Duan Muke seemed to see my dilemma. Duan Muke drove the car and smiled at me. "Don't worry. I'll buy you a normal dress." I reached into my pocket. Because I was in a hurry, I only brought my phone. I didn't even bring my bag. I suddenly felt a little embarrassed. I looked at Duan Muke and said in a low voice, "I forgot my backpack. The money is in my bag." Duan Muke looked at me and said with a smile, "Idiot, you came out with me to shop. How could I let you spend money? Don't worry, I brought it. Also, I have a present for you later." I looked at Duan Muke with a puzzled face. "What gift?" I asked in a low voice. Duan Muke said in a low voice, "You'll know when the time comes." Looking at Duan Muke's mysterious face, I didn't want to ask anymore. I just sat quietly in the front passenger seat. When we arrived at the shopping center, Duan Muke held my hand and walked inside. After all, this was a Kurosawa place, and the news of our divorce wasn't a secret. When we arrived at the shopping center, everyone looked at me with a surprised expression. I suddenly felt a little embarrassed and lowered my head. Duan Muke didn't shy away. He put his arm around my shoulder and said in a low voice, "Don't be afraid. Let them talk about it. You just need to know how I feel about you." I understood what he meant and nodded. Duan Muke took me to a clothing store that I often went to. The clerk recognized me immediately. Since she had been here many times, she knew what kind of style I liked. Duan Muke followed the clerk's recommendation and helped me choose 2 sets of clothes that I usually wore. His taste wasn't bad. They were all styles that I liked. I didn't refuse and obediently changed into them as he asked. After changing, I came out of the dressing room and saw Duan Muke sitting in the lounge. I walked over to him. At this time, the clerk also came over. She looked at Duan Muke and said in a low voice, "Young Master Duanmu, the designer Tony just called. He said that he will be in the store soon." "Okay, I know. Did he bring the things I asked him to bring?" Duan Muke asked in a low voice. "He said that he brought them." "That's good. Let's wait for him." Duan Muke looked at me and smiled. I sat next to him and asked in a low voice, "Who is Tony? You asked him to bring you something. What is it?" Duan Muke put his arm around my shoulder and said in a low voice, "You'll know when he comes. Don't worry." Duan Muke's intimate behavior towards me was seen by everyone in the store. I also saw a few people whispering to each other. I was afraid that it would affect Duan Muke's reputation. I said in a low voice, "Xiaoke, let me go. There are so many people here. It won't be good if they see us. After all, we are divorced." Chapter 189. Duan Muke didn't let go of my hand. He looked at me and said, "What are you afraid of? We're already divorced. You won't allow us to date. Don't think about other messy things. Tony will be here soon." I didn't know what to say. It seemed that Tony was really mysterious. Since Duan Muke asked me to wait, I could only wait. After a while, a fashionably dressed man walked in. He saw Duan Muke at first glance and walked straight to him. He smiled and greeted Duan Mu Quebec. "Hi, young Master Quebec, sorry I'm late." Duan Muke stood up, and I followed him. Duan Muke smiled and looked at him. "Not at all. Long time no see, Tony. Let me introduce you. This is Cold Glaze." Duan Muke introduced me to Tony. I looked at Tony and nodded with a smile. "Hello." Tony also looked at me and smiled. He looked at Duan Muke and said, "The figure you told me about is really just right. Miss Lung will definitely be able to wear the gown. Let her try it on. Then Tony took out a box from behind him. The packaging was very exquisite. He handed it to Duanmuke and I and opened it. The moment I opened it, I was stunned. An exquisite white gown lay in the box. The quality was very good. I looked at Duanmuke in surprise. He smiled and looked at me. He gently stroked my head and said, "Go and try it on. If it doesn't fit, Tony is here. He can change it for you." I nodded and carried the gown into the changing room. After closing the door, I opened the gown and found that it was really beautiful. The style was definitely very novel. It was different from the ordinary gowns I usually saw. The style was exactly what I liked. It seemed that Duanmuke understood me very well. I put on the gown, and it fit me very well. Since there was no mirror in the changing room, I walked out after putting it on. When I stood in front of Duanmuke, everyone present was shocked. Tony looked at me and shouted, "Perfect. It's too perfect. I think only Miss Lung can wear this gown. It's practically made for her." Everyone, including the customers in the store and the staff in the store, stood there and looked at me in shock. Duanmuke looked at me and smiled. He reached out his hand and knelt in front of me. He looked at me and said softly, "Miss, can I hold your hand?" I looked at him and smiled. I reached out my hand to hold Duanmuke's hand. He stood up and held me tightly in his arms. He gently stroked my face and looked at me. He said, "Shaoli, you are so beautiful. I knew that Tony's gown would suit you, but I didn't know that you would look so beautiful in it. What should I do? I've been poisoned by you. Hurry up and treat me." Then, Duanmuke kissed me deeply on the lips. I blushed. Duanmuke hugged me. I leaned into his arms and looked at Duanmuke embarrassedly. I said softly, "Don't be like this. Everyone is watching. Let go of me first." Duanmuke didn't let go of me. He gently hugged my waist and then whispered into my ear, "What are you afraid of? I like you. It's not like you don't know that. Be good, let me hug you for a while." Black lines appeared on my face as I leaned into Duanmuke's embrace and helplessly rolled my eyes. After a while, Duanmuke let go of me. He looked at Tony and smiled. "Tony, thank you. I am very satisfied. Thank you for helping me solve my urgent problem." Tony smiled and looked at Duanmuke. "It's okay. It's what I should do. Is there anything you need to change in the gown?" I let go of Duanmuke and walked in front of the full-length mirror. I looked at myself. It really looked good. I looked at Tony and said, "It's perfect. There's no need to change it." Duanmuke smiled and looked at Tony. "If Shaoli says there's no need to change it, then there's no need to change it." Duanmuke looked down at his watch. "It's almost time. We should go to the press conference." We said goodbye to Tony and headed to the press conference. Duanmuke drove the car. I put on the new gown and sat in the front passenger seat. In order to match the gown, Duanmuke had specially picked out a handbag for me. The handbag wasn't cheap, and it really matched the gown. I fiddled with the handbag. Duanmuke turned to look at me and said softly, "What's wrong? You don't like this handbag? There's still time. Why don't we go somewhere else and pick one for you?" I shook my head and looked at Duanmuke. "No, I really like this handbag. It matches the gown very well. But how do you know this designer named Tony?" Duanmuke smiled and said, "You mean him? He's a friend of mine. And he's also a fashion designer. Although he's not as famous as Xingyao, he mainly designs women's clothing, and his style is very unique. I wanted to buy a gown for you, but the gowns on the market were too ordinary and couldn't bring out your aura." I thought of him, and when I talked to him yesterday, he immediately agreed. He said he had just designed a gown, but it wasn't on the market yet. I said I wanted to buy it, and he said he would give it to me as a gift. I was very surprised at the time, but I didn't know why, so I told him I would give it to him later. Then, he asked me if I wanted to see a woman's figure in the gown. I told him then, and he said he wanted to make some changes to the gown. I didn't think much of it at the time, but he made the changes just right. He really is a famous designer. "You still remember my size?" I looked at Duanmuke in surprise. I couldn't believe it. Duanmuke looked at me and smiled. "Of course, I don't know anything about you." I blushed. I didn't know why, but when I heard Duanmuke say that, I felt a little perverted. Duanmuke reached out and stroked my hair. All right, little fool, don't think too much. You don't have a suitable hairstyle for such a beautiful gown. When we get there, I'll do it for you. You know how to do hairstyles. I looked at Duanmuke in surprise, my face full of disbelief. I had been with him for a long time, but I didn't know he had so many skills. When we arrived near the press conference, I was about to get out of the car when Duanmuke pulled me back. He turned my back to him and whispered, "Come on, hurry up. I'll do your hair first." Duanmuke began to play with my hair. His movements were very skillful. I took out my phone from my bag and turned it to selfie mode. I looked at myself in the mirror. Duanmuke was carefully doing my hair. It was very beautiful. I looked at him through the phone. He looked so handsome when he was serious. I put down the phone and whispered to Duanmuke, "I didn't expect you to be so amazing." Chapter 190. After a while Duanmuke was done. I picked up my phone and looked at it again. It really was a perfect hairstyle. It didn't lose out to my usual hairstylist. I was very satisfied. I turned to look at Duanmuke and said softly, "Thank you. I'm very satisfied." Duanmuke reached out and played with the hair on my head. He looked at me and said softly, "Not bad, very beautiful. It's about time, let's go in." I just saw Su Rui at the door. He just went in with Xinyao. Let's go in too. The person who wants to give me the ticket is also at the door. Let's go in. I nodded and followed Duanmuke out of the car. When we reached the entrance, a man appeared and handed Duanmuke 2 tickets. Duanmuke looked at me and said, "Let's go in." I was stunned. I thought for a moment and looked at Duanmuke. I want to give Xiaohao a call first. I want to tell him and ask him about the Red Baron. Duanmuke thought for a moment and nodded. I walked to the side and dialed Han Hao's number. "Xiaohao, it's Xiaoli. Thank you for your hard work. How's the Red Baron?" "The Red Baron is fine. She's recovering well. You don't need to worry. How are you? Are you feeling better?" "I'm fine. I have something to tell you. Xinyao's company is launching a new product today. The person who attacked Xinyao might appear today. I'm worried about Xinyao. Xiao Ke and I came here. We might not be able to go to the hospital until later. Thank you for your hard work. It's okay. Be careful. You must take care of yourself. Don't rush into things on your own." "Okay. I'm going to take the Red Baron for a checkup. We'll talk again when you're done." Then he hung up the phone. I walked back to Duanmuke and looked at him with a smile. Duanmuke looked at me with a smile. Then, he held my hand and walked into the launch. As soon as we entered the venue, we bumped into Xinyao and Suri. Xinyao saw me smiling and threw herself at me. I didn't have time to defend myself. She jumped into my arms and rubbed against my chest. She smiled and said, "Sister-in-law, you're here. Why did you bring my brother?" "I didn't miss him. I missed you." I had long been accustomed to Xinyao's tormenting manner, so I couldn't use a fierce attitude towards her. I had to coax her. I gently patted Xinyao's back and said softly, "Little Xinyao, quickly get up. There are so many people here. And today is your new product. You have to maintain your image. If you want to get tired of it, wait until the 2 of us get tired of it at home. All right?" Xinyao stood up from my arms. She looked at me and nodded thoughtfully. "Okay, I'll listen to you. Sister-in-law, I'll arrange your and my brother's seats." I pulled Suri over and asked softly, "How is it? Has everything been arranged?" Suri nodded. He looked at me and Duanmuke and said, "Everything has been arranged. Outside the venue are our brothers. Inside the venue, I've also arranged for a few of our people to disguise themselves as staff members. However, we still haven't seen Li Hui. I don't know what she's going to do next. It feels like we're in the dark while she's in the light. We're at a disadvantage. I really don't know what she's going to do." I thought for a moment and glanced at the venue. I asked Xinyao, "Little Xinyao, have you arranged your seat?" "Yes, I've arranged it. It's arranged in the first row. It's already arranged. Our seats are installed by the company, so I don't need to worry about it. I've also arranged your seats. It's just behind me. I specifically requested it from the company, and they gave me face and readily agreed." "All right, sister-in-law. Why do you suddenly want to ask this? Xinyao asked with a puzzled face. I turned to look at Duanmu Quebec. He obviously understood my thoughts. Duanmu Ke looked at Xinyao and patted her shoulder. Xinyao, listen to your sister-in-law. Later, you'll change seats with someone else. We'll sit behind your original seat. But don't tell anyone why you're changing seats. Alright, why hasn't that woman come yet? Is she not coming? Or is she not coming at all? So she arranged for someone else to assassinate you? She's here. Xinyao looked at the entrance, and we followed her gaze. A group of people walked in from the entrance. Among the group of people in black, there was a small figure. She wore a black dress and held an exquisite bag in her hand. Her hair was tied up in curls, and from her sharp eyes, I could tell she wasn't someone easy to deal with. I looked at her and whispered to Xinyao, "Is she Li Hui?" Xinyao sneered and said disdainfully, "That's her. Look at her. She's obviously been removed from the main designer's list. This time, only a few outfits were designed by her. The rest were designed by me and other designers. Look at her entrance. She's as ostentatious as a celebrity. She really thinks she's someone important." While we were talking, Li Hui bypassed the crowd and walked toward us. She stopped in front of Xinyao and looked at us. Then she looked at Xinyao and said, "Long time no see, Duanmu Xinyao. These are your friends, right? Have you arranged a seat? If not, I'll find someone to do it for you." Xinyao looked a little angry. Suri interrupted and smiled at Li Hui. "No thank you. We already have a seat." Li Hui turned her head and looked at Su Rue. She smiled and reached out her hand in front of Su Rue. "Hello, handsome. My name is Li Hui. I see that you have a good figure. Do you want to be my model?" she said softly. Xinyao couldn't hold it in anymore. She turned and shook off Li Hui's hand. She looked at Li Hui and smiled. "Put away your intentions. You actually found my man to be your model. It's hard to be quick. My boyfriend is such an excellent model. It's inevitable that he would be chosen by a famous designer." Li Hui smiled and withdrew her hand. She looked at Xinyao and said, "So he's your boyfriend. He really suits you. You guys talk. I'm going to take a seat." Then she smiled evilly and turned to leave. Looking at Li Hui's figure, Xinyao was so angry that she stomped her feet. She looked at Li Hui's figure and said very angrily, "Too infuriating. Look at her arrogant appearance. It's really disgusting." Before, people in the company said that she had an unusual relationship with the company's vice president. I didn't take it seriously. Now she actually hooked up with Su Rue. She's too cheap. She's the second bitch I know. Suri gently patted Xinyao's shoulder. "Honey, don't be angry. She'll be even more proud of you," he said softly. Chapter 191. Xinyao looked at Li Hui, who had already taken her seat. She sneered and said, "I won't let that woman have her way. Dear guests and friends, please take your seats. Our press conference is about to begin." The host's voice came from the broadcast. It seemed the press conference was about to begin. I looked at Xinyao and patted her shoulder. She looked at me and nodded. The few of us walked to our assigned seats. Xinyao was very obedient. She changed seats with the girl in the corner. I deliberately observed Li Hui's expression. She slightly furrowed her brows. If I guessed correctly, she might really want to frame Xinyao today. Duanmu Ke sat next to me. I whispered in his ear, "Xiao Ke, I just saw Li Hui furrow her brows. I think she might really be planning something today. You should be careful. Although Xinyao isn't sitting in her original seat, I'm afraid she might have a backup plan. If possible, when the designer comes on stage, you should take Xinyao away." Duanmu Ke looked at me. He put his arm around my shoulder and said, "Suri and I will stay. You and Xinyao go first. It's settled. I'm still worried about you staying here." Looking at Duanmu Ke's smiling face, I didn't have any reason to refuse. Duanmu Ke tightly hugged my shoulder, and my face flushed. At this time, Suri sent me a message. I stole a glance at Duanmu Quebec. He was looking at the stage, and wasn't looking at me. I quickly picked up my phone to check Suri's message. After reading it, I smiled. Suri had sent me a message. "Looking at you and Duanmu Ke together. I think you two are a good match. If possible, Stay together and don't miss out on each other. I turned my head to look at Suri. He was also looking at Xinyao. It seemed that he was also worried. Not long after we sat down, the fashion show officially began. Just like other fashion shows, the models walked the runway. I turned my head to look at Xinyao. She was chatting enthusiastically with her colleagues. It seemed that she was fine, but I couldn't relax too much. Throughout the entire show, my focus was not on the performance. After the show, it was time for all the fashion designers to go up on stage to give their thanks. Xinyao also had to go up on stage. Moreover, as the finale, she had to say a few words. As long as I could endure until she finished speaking and got off the stage, I could safely bring her home. I watched all the designers go up on stage. Li Hui also went up on stage. Suddenly, I had a very bad premonition. I was a little worried and tightly rubbed my hands. Duanmuke seemed to see my nervousness. He reached out and tightly held my hands. He looked at me and softly said, "Don't worry, let's see the situation first." At this time, Suri looked at me and said, "Miss, I'm going to the side stage to take a look. I'm a little worried." I nodded. It seemed that Suri had the same idea as me. He was also worried that Li Hui would do something to the stage. After all the designers were on stage, the company's leaders went on stage to give a speech. It was all the old-fashioned speech. Then it was Xinyao's turn. We heard the host say, "Next, let's welcome the famous international designer, Miss Duanmu Xinyao, to give a speech." The audience applauded. Xinyao took a step forward. Standing under the spotlight, she looked very elegant. After the applause subsided, Xinyao began to give her speech. Her speech sounded very relaxed, but my heart was still in my throat. I really didn't know what Li Hui would do. Would she stab Xinyao in the back? I didn't think so. There were so many people here. If she did that, she would be telling everyone that she was a murderer. According to Xinyao's description, Li Hui should be a meticulous person. She wouldn't do something so brazen. I shook my head helplessly. Suddenly my eyes drifted upward. I saw the chandelier in the middle of the stage swaying. I looked carefully. Because there were so many people in the venue, the room was ventilated. The wind blew against the chandelier. It was obvious that it was swaying. I looked at Xinyao. She was standing right under the chandelier. I suddenly became nervous. I stood up and looked at the chandelier. It was blowing even harder. Duanmuke saw me stand up. He grabbed my arm and asked, "Shaoli, what's wrong? Why are you standing up?" I pointed at the chandelier. I looked at Duanmuke and didn't dare to speak too loudly. I was afraid that I would disturb the others. I looked at Duanmuke and said, "Xiaoke, look. The chandelier is swaying. Xinyao is in danger." It was too late. As soon as I finished speaking, I looked again. The chandelier had already fallen. I shouted, "Xinyao, it's dangerous." Just as the chandelier was about to hit Xinyao, Suri suddenly rushed to the stage. He pushed Xinyao away, and the chandelier fell on Suri. "Suri!" I shouted and ran to the stage. Xinyao was scared out of her wits. The scene was in chaos, and most of the designers on the stage had run away. I glanced around. Li Hui was still standing there, looking at us with an expressionless face. However, I couldn't care less. I turned around and looked at Suri. The chandelier had broken into pieces, and Suri's forehead was bleeding. He fell to the ground, but he was still conscious. I quickly took out a tissue from my bag to stop the bleeding. Xinyao also ran to Suri. She hugged him tightly and cried to Suri, "Suri, what happened to you? Why are you so stupid? It's all my fault." Xinyao suddenly became angry. She put down Suri and walked to Li Hui. She reached out her hand and slapped Li Hui's face. Xinyao shouted, "Li Hui, did you do this? Why are you being so aggressive? What did I do to harm you?" Li Hui sneered and looked at Xinyao. "What are you talking about? The chandelier falling wasn't something I could control. Why do you think I did it?" I handed Suri to Duanmuke and ran to Xinyao. I hugged her tightly and pulled her back. I whispered to Xinyao, "Don't be so serious with her at this time. We don't have any evidence to prove that she did it. We'll talk about it later. Let's take a look at Suri first. I don't know if he's seriously injured or not. Please take a look at him." I found an excuse to comfort Xinyao. I was afraid that she would really be angry and do something to Li Hui. If that happened, Li Hui would be even more pleased. Sure enough, it worked. Xinyao immediately thought of Suri. She ran to Suri and hugged him tightly. She cried and said, "Suri, how are you? I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. It's all because of me. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't have been in danger again and again." Chapter 192. Suri was still conscious. He shook his head and looked at Xinyao. "I'm fine. Xinyao, you should leave this place. I don't know what Li Hui is going to do to you. You should leave quickly. It's too dangerous here." I turned to look at Li Hui. She wasn't there anymore. I suddenly realized the severity of the situation. I looked at Xinyao and said, "Xinyao, take Suri to the hospital. I'm going to ask Li Hui." Then, I stood up and ran to the back of the stage. I guessed that Li Hui had left to go behind the scenes. I followed my train of thought. If Li Hui was the one who did it, she should be in the control room of the chandelier. I walked to the computer room. I vaguely heard someone talking. Was it really Li Hui? I was about to go closer to listen when someone suddenly grabbed my arm. I was scared and almost screamed, but that person covered my mouth. While I was stunned, the person whispered to me, "Don't be afraid. It's me." I saw that it was Duanmu Quebec. He signaled me not to speak. I nodded and looked at Duanmu Quebec. He said in a low voice, "I saw you coming, so I followed. You always like to run around. It's too dangerous for you to be alone." I whispered in Duanmu K's ear, "Lower your voice. I heard someone talking inside. I guess it's Li Hui. Don't talk. Let's listen and see what they're talking about." Duanmu K nodded. Duanmu K and I quietly walked to the door of the computer room. Sure enough, we heard two people talking inside. If I guessed right, it should be Li Hui. But I didn't know who the other person was. I thought for a moment, then took out my phone and turned on the recording mode. Li Hui's voice came from inside. She said, "What are you doing? Why did the chandelier fall more than a minute later than we expected? It didn't hit her, but it hit her man. But what's the use? I want her life, not her man's. How am I supposed to estimate when the chandelier will fall? Besides, why do you want to kill her? What's your goal?" Li Hui was talking to another man. "You don't have to worry about that. As long as she's in the same company as me, neither of us will have a good day. Let's not talk about other things for now. Hurry up and pack up. Based on Xinyao's character, she'll definitely come back to investigate. Don't let her find out that you have any evidence. If I can't live well, you can't live well either." Li Hui's words clearly carried a threat. "I really don't want to get involved in your fight. Whatever you do to her in the future, don't drag me into it. I also don't want to work for you anymore. I promise this time I'll clean up the evidence. I hope you'll keep your promise and let my wife and child go." It turned out that Li Hui had taken this man's family hostage. "Let you go? You might be thinking too much. Didn't you tell me that you like Duanmu Xinyao? Because you have a family? She rejected you again and again, but you didn't give up and thought that she looked down on you. The first person who wanted to harm her was you, not me. Now we're in the same boat. If I can't live well, you can't live well either. How can you be so ruthless? I didn't think you were this kind of person. Aren't you afraid that I'll sue you?" The man's voice was clearly trembling. It seemed that he was forced to do this. The main culprit was still Li Hui. "Sue me? Do you think that other people will believe what you say? Don't be stupid. You have a motive, but I don't. If there's no direct evidence, then there's no way to say that I want to harm Duanmu Xinyao. Don't be naive." As soon as Li Hui's voice fell, my phone suddenly rang. I was scared and quickly hung up, but it was too late. Who's there?" Li Hui's roar came from the computer room. I turned my head and looked at Duanmu Quebec. He looked at me and signaled me to calm down. I nodded. Li Hui walked out of the computer room. She looked at me and Duanmu K and thought for a moment. "It's you guys?" Obviously, she already knew that we were on Xinyao's side. Her expression was very serious. When she saw my phone, I guiltily hid it behind my back. She looked at me and said, "What? You heard our conversation just now and recorded it. Give me your phone, and I won't make things difficult for you." Li Hui extended her hand in front of me. I subconsciously took 2 steps back. At this moment, a man walked out of the room. His face was covered in stubble, and he didn't look like a good person. He looked at us and realized that his and Li Hui's scheme had been discovered. He looked at Li Hui with an evil expression. Li Hui nodded at him, and he took out a dagger from his pocket. When I saw him take out the dagger, I was shocked. I tightly grabbed Duan Mukei's hand. Duan Mukei looked at me and then at him. He said softly, "Don't be afraid. It's just a dagger. Don't be afraid." He lowered his head and whispered into my ear. "When that man rushes over, you have to turn around and run. Run to a place with a lot of people. I can stop that man, but I can't stop Li Hui. So you have to run. Then run home or go to the hospital to find Han Hao. Don't stay here alone. Be a good girl." Duan Mukei patted my shoulder. Then, he smiled at Li Hui and the others. "Hey, what's the meaning of this? Do you want to have a fight?" Li Hui looked at Duan Mukei and said, "You're Duanmu Xinyao's brother, right? I have nothing to say to you. She recorded it, and you know our plan. I won't let you leave here alive. Do it." As soon as Li Hui finished speaking, the man rushed toward us with the dagger. Duan Mukei put me behind him and blocked the man with his hand. Duan Mukei looked at me and shouted, "Shaoli, run." Then he started fighting with the man. The man's moves were all fierce. Duan Mukei had to guard against him and prevent himself from getting hurt. At the same time, he had to stop him and Li Hui from rushing towards me. However, I didn't have the heart to leave Duan Mukei alone. It looked like Duan Mukei wouldn't be able to stop them. Just as I didn't know what to do, Li Hui rushed in front of me. She looked at me and said, "You refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Give me your phone." Then, she reached out to snatch the phone from my hand. I held the phone tightly and stepped back. I saw that Duan Mukei was wrestling with that man. He couldn't help me at all. On one hand, I was worried about him. On the other hand, I was worried about myself. I couldn't care less about the child in my belly. It seemed that I could only fight with Li Hui. Chapter 193. Li Hui rushed towards me and pulled out a knife from her pocket. She pointed at me and said, "Hurry up and give me your phone. Otherwise, I won't be polite to you." I shook my head and looked at Li Hui. I wanted to stall for time, so I said to Li Hui, "What's the point of doing this? Tell me first, why did you frame Xinyao? Aren't you afraid of losing your job?" Li Hui sneered and looked at me. "Reason? Job? Let me tell you, if it wasn't for Xinyao, I would be the chief designer of our company right now. It's because of her appearance. Ever since she came to our company, the company has been very fond of her and neglected me. Now that she has become the chief designer of the new product launch, the clothes she designed are the priority to be promoted. But what about mine? I've become a basic promotion." Hearing Li Hui's words, I suddenly felt that her resentment was very heavy. I glanced at Duan Mukei and saw that he was starting to get a cold. It seems that as long as I stall for time, Duan Mukei will be able to solve the problem. I looked at Li Hui and said, "I think you're thinking too much. Don't your company have other designers? Why don't they have such a big reaction?" They have already completely bowed down to Duanmu Xinyao's world-famous halo. Do they still have the mood to refute? It's good enough that they don't become her right-hand men. I'm not as brainless as them. I still think you're thinking too much. I turned my head and looked at Duanmu Quebec. He had already pressed the man to the ground. It seemed that the time was about right. Just as I was feeling helpless, I didn't notice Li Hui. She suddenly rushed towards me with a knife. Before I could react, she was already in front of me. She swung the knife at me. I subconsciously raised my arm to block, but Li Hui's knife directly cut my arm. I screamed in pain and fell to the ground. Duan Mukei heard my scream. He turned his head to look at me and shouted, "Shaoli, what happened to you? Shaoli, are you all right?" Duan Mukei reached out and knocked the man down, snatched the knife from his hand, and went straight to Li Hui. Li Hui saw the Duan Mukei running towards her. She quickly put the knife on my neck and shouted at the Duan Mukei, "Don't come here. Come any closer, and I'll slit her neck." Duan Mukei stopped in his tracks. He looked at me anxiously and furrowed his brows. I shook my head and looked at Duanmu Quebec. I held my phone tightly and quietly turned on the recording button. Li Hui didn't know I had started recording. I said to Li Hui, don't be impulsive. She looked at me, and then at Duanmu Quebec. Put down the knife in your hand, or I'll do it. Duanmu K looked at me, and helplessly threw the knife in his hand to the ground. He was afraid that Li Hui or the other man would pick it up, so he threw it far away. I looked at Li Hui and asked, in this kind of deadlock situation, no one can do anything. I have a question I want to ask you. Some time ago, Xinyao encountered 2 assassination attempts in the mall. Did you find someone to do it? It was me. So what? What's the point of you knowing it now? I'm telling you, you two won't be able to leave here today. Then Li Hui raised the knife. I closed my eyes. At this moment, I felt a shadow appear in front of me. I opened my eyes and saw Duanmu K standing in front of me. His hand was bleeding. He snatched Li Hui's knife with his bare hands and hugged me tightly. I turned my head and looked at Li Hui. Duanmu K had lifted her to the ground, but I couldn't care less. I rummaged through my handbag and found a tissue. I hurriedly bandaged Duanmu K's wound. Duanmu K didn't care about anything else. He looked at Li Hui, who was lying on the ground, and said with a serious face, Li Hui, that kick wasn't light. You've successfully crossed my bottom line. I've never hit a woman. You hurt my sister, my brother, and my woman. For a woman like you, my kick was light. Li Hui, who was lying on the ground, wanted to get up. She looked at Duanmu K and shouted, I won't let you get away with it. Then she stood up and was about to rush over. At this moment, the police rushed in from outside. The one in the front saw the scene, then looked at Duanmu K and me. We just received a report that there was an assault here. Come and take them to the police station. I watched the police take Li Hui and the man away. I let out a long breath and leaned against Duanmu K's chest. I held his hand and said softly, Xiao K, it hurts, right? Everything is fine now. Duanmu K held me tightly in his arms and said softly, Yes, everything is fine now. Let's go to the police station first. I nodded and followed Duanmu K to the police station. After we arrived at the police station, we took care of our wounds and started to record our statements. Everything that happened at the press conference was known to the family. The police also knew Duanmu K's and my identities. I gave the recording to the police. After the police verified it, they told us that it was strong evidence. After a detailed investigation, they could file a case. It seemed that they could really convict Li Hui. There was nothing else to do at the police station. Duanmu K and I prepared to go to the hospital to see Xinyao and Suri. Suri's injuries were very serious, and I hadn't seen the Red Baron for more than a day. I didn't know how she was doing. After Duanmu K and I arrived at the hospital, we decided to go see Suri first. We contacted Xinyao and found that Suri was on an 4 drip in the emergency room. When we arrived at the emergency room and found them, we found that Suri's head wasn't too serious. It seemed that Suri was very lucky. I looked at Xinyao and said, Xinyao, the last time you made an appointment with Dad, it should be today to go home to propose marriage. You won't be able to go now. Let's discuss it with Dad. Let's go tomorrow. Xinyao nodded and said, I already told Dad. He also heard about what happened at the press conference. When I called him, he gave me a scolding. It was clearly not something I wanted to do. But in Dad's eyes, it became something I did. Dad was worried about you. Don't think too much about it. My mother has already prepared everything for Suri. When I have nothing to do tomorrow, I'll accompany you two home and tell Dad about your situation. I looked at the time and saw that it was already afternoon. I looked at Xinyao and said, It's getting late. You two should go back to my house after you're done with your injections. Xinyao, don't leave Suri's side for the next 2 days. You can stay at my house. I'll go see the Red Baron first. After that, Duanmu K and I left the emergency room and headed to the outpatient ward. Chapter 194. Duanmu K and I went to the Red Baron's ward. Han Hao was still guarding by the Red Baron's bed. I gently knocked on the door and walked in. Han Hao stood up and looked at us with the Red Baron. They were stunned for a long time. I looked at Han Hao in confusion. What's wrong? What are you looking at? Han Hao pointed at us and said, Why are you all injured? Did something happen at the press conference? Duan Muke looked at Han Hao. We've caught the mastermind behind the attack. Xiao Li tried her best to get direct evidence. That's how we managed to bring Li Hui to justice. In order to get the evidence, we had an argument with them. In the end, we were all injured. We didn't expect them to have a knife. It was a mistake. I walked to the Red Baron's bedside and sat down. I held the Red Baron's hand tightly. I looked at her and said softly, Red Baron, how are you? Are you feeling better? The Red Baron smiled at me. I'm feeling much better. Miss, I'm sorry that I wasn't by your side when you were in danger. Duan Muke looked at Han Hao and said, Xiao Hao, come with me. Let's talk about something. Han Hao was bewildered for a moment. Then, he nodded and left the room with Duan Mu Quebec. I looked at their backs and felt a little worried. The Red Baron saw my hesitation. She pulled my arm and said, Don't think too much. Young Master Duanmu must be looking for Han Hao to talk about men. It's not convenient for you to listen. Maybe. I just don't want the two brothers to fall out. All right. How's Xiao Hao taking care of you? The Red Baron smiled and looked at me. He's very good. He arranged everything for me very well. I'm very grateful. Thank you, Mississippi. I shook my head and looked at the Red Baron. It's okay. I'm grateful to him for taking care of you for me. When did the doctor say you could be discharged? The doctor says he'll be all right in 2 days. What's the matter? Eldest miss, is there something you want me to do? I sighed and looked at the Red Baron. No. I've realized that I can't control my feelings for Duan Muke anymore. I'm afraid that if I meet him again, I won't be able to leave him. So, I want to leave as soon as possible. Also, I have to go to America to settle some matters. So let's leave when you're discharged. The Red Baron nodded and looked at me. All right. Eldest miss, I'll go wherever you go. This time, I know that I have to protect myself. That way, I can protect you better. I looked at the Red Baron and nodded with a smile. At this moment, Duan Muke and Han Hao walked back into the room. I looked at them and asked, What did you two talk about outside? Duan Muke and Han Hao looked at each other. Then they looked at me and said, Nothing. We were just casually chatting. Nothing else. Don't think too much. I stood up and looked at the two of them. I just talked to the Red Baron. She can be discharged in 2 days. Duan Muke thought for a moment. That's good. Then everything will be perfect. Duan Muke turned to look at me and said softly, If there's nothing else, let's go home first. Didn't we have to talk about accompanying Suri to my house to propose tonight? It's already afternoon. Let's go home. I saw that Han Hao suddenly looked embarrassed. I glanced at Duan Muke, and he immediately understood. He turned to Han Hao and said, Xiao Hao, today was supposed to be the day that Suri would come to my house to propose. But because of the press conference, we had no choice but to postpone it until tomorrow. Xiao Li promised Suri that she would go with him. Let's go home and discuss the details. I might have to trouble you to take care of the Red Baron. Han Hao looked at Duan Muke, and then at me. Xiao Li, you go ahead. I'll take care of things here. Don't worry. Congratulate Suri and Xingyao on my behalf. I hope they will be together for 100 years. Duan Muke and I accompanied Han Hao and the Red Baron to have a meal at the hospital. After that, we bid farewell to Han Hao and the Red Baron and set off on our way home. I didn't say anything on the way home. I didn't feel good about it. Perhaps it was because Han Hao had done a lot of things for me, but I didn't have the chance to thank him properly. Furthermore, I had to accompany Duan Mu Quebec. Appearing with him was undoubtedly the biggest blow to him. I knew that Han Hao didn't like me being with Duan Muke, but I still didn't consider his feelings. His heart must be in pain. Plus, I didn't know what Duan Muke had said to him. Thinking about it made me feel very uneasy. Duan Muke seemed to see through my thoughts. He reached out and gently placed his hand on mine. What are you thinking about? He asked softly. Are you thinking about what Xiao Hao and I talked about? I looked at Duan Muke and said, Xiao Ke, did you announce your male chauvinism to Xiao Hao again? He's already very good. He's done so many things for me without any complaints. Can you not bully him anymore? Duan Muke looked at me with a smile and said, When did I bully him? I was just thanking him on your behalf. I know that he won't ask you to pay him back. Of course, I wouldn't use that to threaten you to be with him. I just told him that you're very grateful that he took care of the Red Baron for you and did a lot of things for you. When there's a chance in the future, you'll definitely thank him properly. Don't you understand him? He's a man who treats money like dirt. As for what Xiao Hao really likes, I really don't know. In my impression, he doesn't particularly like anything, but he also doesn't particularly hate anything. So I can only say that you'll properly thank him in the future. I looked at Duan Muke with great surprise. It turned out that he was saying good things for me, helping me to appease Han Hao. I was overthinking things. Duan Muke wasn't that bad. I blushed and looked at Duan Muke and said, "Thank you, Xiao Quebec. I might have misunderstood you. I thought you and Xiao Hao went to talk about something else." I didn't say it explicitly, but I knew that Duan Muke definitely understood what I meant. As Duan Muke drove, he said to me, "Then you're definitely overthinking things. Xiao Hao is also a man, and he wants face. If I said these things to him in front of you and the Red Baron, he would feel very embarrassed. So I called him out so that we can talk alone. We can also talk about what's in our hearts. Xiao Hao told me that he's volunteering to do these things for you, just like how he did many things for me in the past. He said that he can't bear to see you working hard, and he's willing to share your burden as much as he can." Hearing Duan Muke's words, my heart didn't feel very comfortable. The more serious Han Hao was about my feelings, the more my heart told me that I couldn't accept him. Chapter 195. When we arrived home, Suri and Xinya were already there. They were playing with Susu. When they saw me and Duan Muke, they ran over to greet us. Xinya threw herself into my arms. "Sister-in-law, you're back," she whispered. "Why did you bring my brother with you? He's not going to stay here, is he?" Duan Muke walked behind Xinya, picked her up, and threw her to Suri. With a look of disdain, he said, "Suri, take care of your woman. I'm going to stay here tonight. Tomorrow, I'll go home with you guys. If Dad asks about Suri's injury, I can cover for you. Keep an eye on this idiot. Every day, he causes trouble for me." Duan Muke reached out and stroked Xinyao's hair. Although Duan Muke didn't seem to care much about Xinyao, in reality, he cared a lot about his sister. But that wasn't the main point. The main point was that Duan Muke was going to stay at my house tonight. There was a guest room, but with his status, how could he stay in a guest room? Just as I was thinking, my parents came out of their bedroom and sat down in the living room. I thought for a moment, then said to my mother, "Mom, Xiao Ke is going to stay at our house tonight." I looked at my mother, and she immediately understood what I meant. She looked at me, and then at Xiao Quebec. "Xiao Ke, you can come and stay with us." Before my mother could finish speaking, Duan Muke said, "Mom, there's no need to trouble yourself. I'll sleep in the same room with Xiaoli tonight. It's not like we haven't slept together before. There's no need to trouble yourself." We were all stunned. My mother looked at me with a doubtful face. She didn't seem to believe Duan Muke's words. I sighed and shook my head helplessly. My mother thought for a moment and smiled at Duan Muquebec. "It's no trouble at all. I'll ask Auntie to do some simple cleaning. It won't take long." Duan Muke reached out and pulled me into his arms. He looked at my mother and said, "Mom, there's no need. I left a set of toiletries and a change of clothes in Xiaoli's room. I'll just use that." Then he looked at Suri and Xinyao and said, "You two can sleep in. Tomorrow at 10 o'clock, we can't be late. Okay, let's go upstairs." Then, Duan Muke put his arm around my shoulder and went upstairs. I helplessly followed him. I didn't know what to say. Duan Muke carried me back to the bedroom. He closed the door and lay down on the bed. He looked like he was in pain. I suddenly felt that something was wrong. I sat next to him and asked softly, "Xiao Ke, what's wrong? Do you feel uncomfortable?" Duan Muke shook his head and looked at me. "Xiaoli, can you take a look at the wound on my arm? It seems to have split open." "What?" I shouted. I quickly took off Duan Muke's shirt. As expected, the wound on his arm had split open. I anxiously looked at Duan Muke and said, "Xiao Ke, wait for me. I'm going to find the first aid kit." I hurriedly rummaged through the cabinets to find the first aid kit. Luckily, I had it in my room. I hurriedly treated Duanmukei's wound. I looked at it and saw that it was quite serious. After I finished bandaging it, I said softly, "Xiaokei, your wound isn't light. Why don't we go to the hospital? I'm worried." Duanmukei shook his head and leaned against the headboard and said to me, "Maybe I used too much strength when I was holding Xinyao, so the wound split open. It's okay, it'll be fine after it's bandaged." I sighed and looked at him. "All right then. If you feel uncomfortable, you have to tell me. We have to go to the hospital. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to find you a change of clothes. Where did you put your things?" I stood up and began to rummage through the wardrobe. Duanmukei pointed to the corner of the wardrobe and said, "It's in the cardboard box in the corner." I followed his finger and found the cardboard box. I opened it and saw that it was full of his clothes. I took the clothes out and turned to look at him. His expression was still pained. It seemed that changing clothes on his own was quite troublesome. I sighed and climbed onto the bed to sit next to him. Duanmukei opened his eyes and looked at me with a surprised expression. I looked at Duanmukei and reached out to unbuckle his belt. He didn't stop me and just looked at me in silence. I didn't dare to raise my head to look at him. I said softly, "It's not convenient for you to change clothes because of the wound on your arm. Let me help you change." Duanmukei nodded and didn't say anything. After I helped Duanmukei change his clothes, I tidied up his clothes and handed them to the auntie. I told the auntie to wash them before tomorrow. I also took some fruit from the kitchen to the bedroom. Duanmukei was still lying on the bed. His body was covered in gauze. Looking at him, I felt sorry for him and found it funny. I looked at Duanmukei and said softly, "Xiaokei, eat some fruit." Duanmukei raised his head and looked at me. He patted the side of the bed and gestured for me to sit there. I thought for a moment and climbed onto the bed. I reached out and took a piece of apple and brought it to Duanmukei's mouth. He smiled and watched me eat it. Then he said to me, "This life is better. I'm content as long as I can quietly look at you and accompany you." I looked at him and said, "You should take care of your body first. There are so many things waiting for you in Kurosawa. Your parents will be worried if they see you like this. You can't let anything happen to you." Duanmukei reached out to grab my arm and pulled me into his embrace. I didn't have time to resist and fell directly into his embrace. My first reaction was that I was afraid of pressing on his wound. Just as I was about to sit up, he hugged me tightly in his embrace and turned on the air conditioner. Before I could say anything, he said to me, "With the air conditioner on, it won't be hot if we hug. The fruits are right next to the bed. If you're hungry, you can eat them. If you're tired, you can just lean into my embrace and sleep." Our intimate actions are very normal in the eyes of others. Do you have any other concerns? Duanmukei had already considered all the questions I wanted to ask. I thought for a moment and said softly, "You're still messing around. What if your wound tears open again?" Duanmukei thought for a moment and said, "It won't. You can't bear to see me get hurt." I didn't know how to respond to his answer. I didn't know what to say, so I just quietly leaned into his embrace and listened to his heartbeat. Duanmukei held me in his embrace and gently stroked my hair. I was a little sleepy, but I didn't want to sleep so early. There were still some things on my mind. The closer Duanmukei was to me, the more I couldn't bear to part with him. But I couldn't be with him. My love for him had always been tangled in my heart. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.